Good morning and welcome to the AM show on Joy News, your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Around the world and across Ghana's 16 regions, you're listening to me, Sweetie Abochi, and I always do this with Benjamin Akakpo. Now, it's just 37 days more to go for the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections, and you want to trust us, your election headquarters, to keep you up to speed. This morning, we'll start by serving you the AM news. And after that, we'll sit with our guests to review the newspapers. Afelmoni is former president for the GJA, and Kwame Nkrumah Bosio is general secretary of the CPP. Both are joining us to review the news stories captured in the newspapers and how it resonates with you and I. After that, Mufta Nabil Abdullahi, of course, comes your way with AM Sports, and then our big stories will begin. Today, we'll be looking at silencing the gun to save lives ahead of the 2024 elections. And in the wake of the renewed gun-related violence in Boko and its environs, we'll hear from the Commission for Small Arms and Light Weapons, who say they're worried that our legacy of peace could be endangered by the proliferation of small arms in the country. You want to stay tuned for that conversation. Also, where do we go from here after the Supreme Court tears into Alban Bagbe's decision to declare 4 seats vacant, arguing that his decision had serious implications for the thousands of Ghanaians who lined up to vote for these parliamentarians? The reason for which the Supreme Court was constitutionally clothed with the power to make pronouncements on the matter. Looks like the tussle is not over yet, so we will delve into the matters arising with our guests. Of course, you are invited to join us with your comments and your thoughts right now across all social media platforms. We are Joy News on TV. And hopefully, at the tail end of the program, when we open the phone lines, you get to call in and have your say. Folks, welcome aboard the Thursday edition of the AM show. Let's start now with AM News. This is the AM News. Let's get right into the details. The chairman of the National Media Commission, Professor Yabuedu Ayeboafo, has urged journalists to prioritize their safety while reporting, rather than risking becoming part of the story. Speaking at the Institute for Democratic Governance, Ghana Speaks Forum on moderating the airways of peaceful and credible elections in 2024, Ayeboafo encouraged journalists to adopt innovative approaches in covering high-risk stories that may threaten their lives.
Don't go there and become the story. Go there and bring us the story. Because when you become the story, it is only once. Yeah, but if you give the story, it can be there, and people have to exercise a lot of caution. I mean, there are some of us who sometimes can be very, very foolhardy. You see that policeman or soldier, you see his face. He's very, very annoyed at you. He says, stop. Say, I'm a journalist, I will not stop. Now, you know, that is invitation to violence. I mean, people have to be a little more cautious. My admonition to our people is that investigative journalism is a very, very serious enterprise. If you cannot evaporate, then be careful about what you do. Because the moment that you use unorthodoxy and you are found out, you answer to the rules. So why we will not discourage journalists from involving themselves in risky enterprises, we encourage them to be a little more innovative in their approach than to be blunt, straightforward, and blunt.
Meanwhile, Executive Secretary of the National Communications Authority, that's the NCA, George Sapong, stressed that the authority would persist in taking strong actions against media outlets that publish content which undermines national security.
When you have so many legitimators within the industry, you don't allow yourself to get into frenzy over these fringes of the media. That is why we will still keep tempering our attitudes towards the issue. But any radio station that crosses the line, we are ready to initiate the processes. And even if their response is to go to court, as I have explained to you, it may look like it gives them a reprieve. we are ready to go over the long haul with them. And when it begins to bite their bottom line, they would begin to understand that maybe shaping up is a far better decision than spending the same money that they are looking for by misbehaving. They may spend in court.
Concerned grassroots members of the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana have expressed their frustrations over the continued government's failure to fulfill its promise of proper welfare for its members. At a press conference in Salt Pond on October 30th, that's just yesterday, CTAG members detailed years of unmet promises and unfulfilled agreements, describing the situation as a, quote, a travesty of justice. There's more in this report.
CTAG, waya, 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 waya. A group known as Concerned Grassroots Members of the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAG, has announced its intention to resume a strike, citing government failure to fulfill promises to adjust their salaries under a new pay structure. At a press conference in Salt Pond in the Central Region, Suleiman Mohammed Mustafa, national PRO of the group, among other things, indicated that several government officials and agencies have failed to honor commitment to improve their conditions of services. Having fulfilled the requirements to teach in the public tertiary institutions, CTAG demanded better conditions of service to commensurate what pertains to public tertiary institutions in Ghana. CTAG affirms that there must be parity in conditions of service between them and public universities. This is due to the provisions outlined in Ghanaian Constitution that emphasizes equal pay for work of equal value.
The group claimed that the government has not acted in good faith regarding assurances to align their compensations with that of university-level teaching staff. They also demanded parity with their colleagues in public universities.
The Vice President has failed to live up to his promise to solve our issues and make sure we get better conditions of service. This is unbelievable and unacceptable for the second gentleman of the land to deceive teacher education. We therefore want the Vice President of Ghana to stand to this occasion, redeem his sinking image before CTAG members and education sector of Ghana. From the above negative activities of these government functionaries and stakeholders, the welfare and economic rights of college education lecturers is not a priority to them. This bad attitude these government functionaries and stakeholders is strange and unacceptable, because if CTAG members who are teacher educators, the backbone of basic education and trainers of trainees, will be treated this way, it means that we do not value education in Ghana. And by extension, we do not value the Ghanaian children. This means that future of Ghana is bleak and dark.
CTAG grassroots members also accused their national leaders of colluding with the government, alleging that CTAG executive members are in bed with the government and have failed to act in the association's best interest.
For the first time, we want to categorically state that our national executive officers are in bed with government, yes, which is the reason why our leaders have attended 44 meetings with the government, and still the NLC arbitral awards had not been implemented after 23 months of pronouncement. On the same condition of service, CTAG had gone on strike on 3 consecutive times, but still the NLC arbitral awards had not still been implemented. It has been 36 months since CTAG started negotiating with government for better conditions of service. The following is our resolution now. We shall never allow ourselves to be cheated and suffer this economic injustice. 2, we have resolved to go on strike again until the National Labour Commission arbitral awards are implemented by the government, whether the government retains power or a new government takes over power. 3, since government is a democratic state and follow the rule of law, we shall take all constitutionally made means and explore all legal avenues to ensure that the National Labour Commission arbitral awards are fully implemented for CETA.
The Legal Aid Commission says access to justice for the vulnerable population in Ghana remains a big challenge. Executive Director for the Commission, Edmond Amakwe-Foley, reveled at the opening of a 5-day training for paralegal staff, volunteers, and national service personnel of Legal Aid Commission, organized by the United Nations Development Programme. Maxo Kudeko tells us more in this report.
The training aims to boost our legal service and enhance access to justice for Ghana's poor and vulnerable population. It also focuses on basic legal knowledge on the Ghana legal system, the court procedures, and elements of crime. Here is Edmond Amakwe-Foley.
Looked at empowering them with basic legal knowledge and skills. So they are going to be taken through understanding what the Ghana legal system is. What are the basic tenets of, say, investigation, prosecution? What are the crimes that people usually commit? Yes. For the lawyers, they know in criminal law, they do something we call the elements of a crime. These paralegals are going to be taken through the elements of a crime so that when a person is arrested, then they know what they are up against and can advise them when they've listened to the evidence that, well, I think this is not necessary or relevant to include. This is not part of your story. But as I also indicated, anything new, we should anticipate that the change would come slowly. And so I call upon, of course, my colleagues in the police service and the prison service to open their doors widely and encourage these paralegals. They are young people.
Mr. Amakwe-Foley added that the training would introduce a newly developed paralegal training curricula and enhance collaboration between institutions to improve legal aid services in Ghana.
This is important for us as a country because together with other justice sector actors, with, I know, the Chief Justice, the Office of the Chief Justice, the Ghana School of Law, are looking at strengthening paralegal training and paralegal services in Ghana. So it will not only be for the criminal justice system, but also broadly across the country, so that across all the MMDAs, there are people who are able to offer basic legal support in issues of contracts, rent, landlord-tenant issues, basic contractual issues. That is the broad scheme for the government and for the state. And so we are happy that we are pioneering this.
On her part, the UNDP's Program Analyst on Gender and Human Rights, Jennifer Esuoko, hinted that the training is in fulfillment of the United Nations Development Goals, which seeks to promote peace and inclusive society for sustainable development and provide access to justice for all.
Implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And like you mentioned, our core mandate is about eradicating poverty. And without access to justice, if someone is poor and has some resources and another person is taking it by force, or somebody needs an opportunity that the person is being cheated not to get it, the person needs to have access to justice. And usually with the poor, they do not have the necessary resources. We know how high the cost of accessing justice is in Ghana. So the work that the Legal Aid Commission does to provide the needed legal assistance for the poor and the vulnerable to access justice is very key to us.
Maxo Kudeko report for Joy News.
In other stories, the College of Health Sciences at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has established an endowment fund to provide sufficient resources for training more health science students. The fund will, among other things, offer scholarships at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels to help address the issue of brain drain. Minister for Health, Dr. Bernard Okuboy, said the fund is key to support research in the field of health, particularly in relation to local diseases.
UST College of Health Sciences Endowment Fund is set to bolster infrastructure, research, and enrollment while providing scholarships and supporting essential equipment acquisition to retain health professionals within the country. Minister of Health, Dr. Okuboy, emphasized the long-term impact of sustainable funding for health education, referencing the transformative influence of similar funds at prestigious universities worldwide.
This endowment fund is one of the most significant steps to make the world a better place for those who are coming after us. And it deserves commendation right from the Vice Chancellor to the last man in the faculty for us coming together to launch this endowment fund. I think we all deserve a round of applause.
Pro-Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor David Asamoah, described the fund as both timely and essential for building a future-ready college.
Over the years, the college has contributed immensely to healthcare delivery in Ghana and beyond, producing exceptional doctors, pharmacists, nurses, medical scientists, and public health experts. Our graduates are shaping health policies, advancing research, and saving lives every day. However, the rapidly evolving landscape of global healthcare demands that we do more.
The fund aims to alleviate some of the structural challenges in Ghana's healthcare sector, addressing the need for skilled professionals.
Moving on, Chairman of the National Council on Persons with Disabilities, Yao Ofori-Deborah, has reiterated the need for corporate entities to stop discriminating against persons with disabilities, but supports them with decent jobs. Speaking at the 10th anniversary celebration of the Ghana Summering Association in Ghana, he said persons with disabilities should be given opportunities to thrive.
Opportunities for us to live normally as citizens of this country. Anytime we have opportunities, then it removes the disability component of our impairments. It is always very, very, very encouraging when we get people recognizing our abilities, giving us the opportunities. Usually, I tell everybody that persons with disability, they don't need so much compassion. They need understanding. If you understand them and give them the opportunity, they will naturally be on equal level as you are.
Direct Aid Ghana, a non-governmental organization, has donated 10 fully stocked provision shops to 50 deprived families at Nante, a farming community in the Bono East region. The gesture forms part of the organization's impactful program, which aims to instill hope in society by providing beneficiaries with livelihood support. Assistant Administrator Zainuddin Mohammed Abubakar tells Joy News the gesture forms part of moves to make the beneficiaries self-reliant. Ohimeng reports.
Direct Aid Ghana was established in 2001 with an objective to assist the vulnerable and the deprived in society. It has in recent times extended livelihood opportunities to the needy in the form of distribution of food items, sewing machines, among others. The organization was in the Kintampo area with one aim: to change the lives of some needy residents, as it donated 10 container shops stocked with provisions and food items. Each container shop will be owned by 5 families who have the option to expand the size of the shop at the instance of Direct Aid Ghana. It was all joy for beneficiaries, including 24-year-old Aisha Idrisu Hidel. She has for years struggled to put food on the table, but with the assistance of Direct Aid Ghana, a new life beckons.
We thank Direct Aid for giving us these provisions and then this staff, and then the donors who helped them in giving us this. We thank them so much. It will help us so much. We will gain a lot of things from it. We will be selling and then we providing certain things for our family and those who depend on us.
The donation has brought smiles to recipients, including physically challenged persons. Assistant Administrator at Direct Aid Ghana, Zainuddin Mohammed Abubakar, tells Joy News The NGO will continue to impact lives.
We are hoping that their lives will change a lot, because in each container we are supporting 5 different families. In these 5 different families, we are giving out 10 containers, which means we are helping 50 families as a whole. So you can see it's clear that if they have been able to put out a good effort in this program, I think by next year or next 2 years, we will see a different thing altogether in their life. They have upgraded their life.
Direct Aid Ghana will monitor the progress of beneficiaries. From Kintampo for Joy News, Ohim Interior reporting.
Thank you.
And now let me tell you about that decade-long dream come true for Infantipim School, as they've claimed the ultimate prize in the 2024 National Science and Maths Quiz finale, breaking their 10-year drought. They've journeyed through a gauntlet of fierce competition, ending their quest on the highest note possible. Champions once again. My colleague Jacqueline Ansomayeboa interacted with some of the students and reports.
I say, God is a mover. God is a mover. God is a mover. I say, God is a mover. God is a mover. God is a mover.
Well, we just ended with the last contest, the main contest for today, with the Infantipim boys actually pushing out St. Augustine's College to win this year's trophy. It's been an exciting moment from beginning to the end. It was St. Augustine's College, but then at the end of the day, Catasco saved Infantipim and they won this contest. But then you guys can see that the boys here are very excited about it. Guys, let me know how you are feeling. I think you need to be thanking Catasco.
Yes. No, we are not thanking Catasco because we did it solely. Yes. We did it solely. Yes. No thanks to anyone. Yes. You know the best thing about this victory? It's not just because we have won the championship, but we've shown some character that no school has ever shown in the history of NSMT. Yes. We came back in the first quarterfinals. We came back against Prempeh. We came back against Presec. Yes. And then we came back against Ogasco. Yes. You know what's best about this? Yes. Triple hat-tricks. Yes. Yes. And then you know the best thing? Yes. Revenges. Yes. We came for revenge. Yes. Number one, Ogasco in 2019, it was very painful. Yes. Yes. It was very, very painful. We were not able to take it in. Yes. So it was painful. Now, today that we have gotten the revenge, we are thanking God and we are going to celebrate it specially. Yes. Yes. And then for Presec last year, we said you are a star. They made videos about us. Yes. They did not understand why we said we are a star. Yes. But today, I think we have won the reason why. I think today we have won the reason why.
But guys, wait. Relax. Now, we all witnessed the contest with St. Augustine's leading. At the point, how are you guys feeling?
Okay. Before we got here today, we knew we were going to win the contest. Exactly. It was rather unfortunate they led us at round 2. Yes. Now, last year, one of our contests...
Even in round 3, problem of the
yes.
And round 4.
Yes. You know something? Last year, one of our contests, Christian, he said you are a star. But most people didn't understand it. And then we didn't show them today that we are the stars. Yes. Now, I'll end by saying, you don't cast, stars. Now everybody go to breakfast.
The excitement in the voice of these students.
You were asking, how were we feeling when they were leading? It's actually a strategy. If you look into things, when we came against Prempeh, we did it. You see, when you are competing with small boys, you have to make them happy. Yes. So that tomorrow, when they see you, they will come again. Yes. So that was a strategy. So that tomorrow, when we are coming against them, and then Presec and Ogasco too will think that Boche has no form. Boche has no form. It's all what? A trick. Yes. Now we have showed you who the best school is. And then we showed it with what? Character. You were leading, but then we came back as a team. If you were a team, you would be Madrid. Because we always come back on the 96th minute. So we say 96 Nyame. Yes. 96 Nyame.
Yes. And the next...
Guys, open up. Guys, open up.
Life is great, for there was once
after 10 years, they finally made that comeback. The last time they won was in 2014. And they made that comeback this year, 2024.
Hallelujah. Relax.
Make somebody talk. Guys.
Now, wait. Now, guys, wait.
I want something. You know, in France, we have a school hymn.
Yes.
And then one of our school hymn is, may thy soldiers, faithful, true, and bold, fight as they say, who nobly fought of foe. And win, and today, we've won with the victor's crown of gold.
You guys think this win was a walk in the park for you?
Exactly, we knew it. We saw it coming.
We knew it.
It was 2014 that we won our last one.
Yes.
This is 2024, 10 years ago. The person who won it for us was Isaac Contrama. This year we had Isaac.
Tell them.
You see, we had 53 points tied with Franklin. And then last school had 27. In the semi-finals, we had 53. The last school had 27 again. So this should show you that indeed we were coming for it. And one word for our haters. One word for the haters who were saying we would never win. This is to show you that.
Well, you've heard from these butcher boys. They are very excited. But guys, go back. We still want to feel the morale. So kindly go back and let us feel the morale from you. We're still right here at the NEC Auditorium. And these boys are very excited. And just as I'm saying, the last time they won was 10 years ago. This year, 2024, marks exactly 10 years. And this is a very exciting moment for them. And this makes them three-time champions of the 2024 National Science and Maths Quiz.
The 2024 National Science and Maths Quiz is produced by Primetime Limited and sponsored by the Ghana Education Service in partnership with GWEL PLC and supported by Pepsodent, Jupay, Prudential Life Insurance Ghana and Bettermalt. And the broadcast of the 2024 National Science and Maths Quiz on the Joy News channel is supported by NASCO, Vitamilk, Virtual Security Africa, Ace Medical Insurance, Built Financial Technologies, DBS Roofing, Syntex Tanks, Family Health Medical College, Chopbox Technologies and Action Secondary Technical, DPS Pipes and Wakanao. And a big congratulations going out to Infantipim. Let's get into our business update now with Benjamin Akakpo.
Welcome to Business and our first story. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says the Go Ride app will maximize the profits of taxi drivers who are almost pushed out of business by foreign ride-hailing apps. He said that during the launch of the new ride-hailing app and said the initiative was expected to provide local taxi drivers with a user-friendly platform to attract customers while charging a commission rate of only 10%, significantly lower than the rate set by other ride-hailing competitors in the industry.
And so we come to Go Ride, and as many of you know, our local drivers have faced immense challenges, particularly with high commission rates imposed by existing ride-hailing platforms. This has not only strained their earnings, but also threatened their livelihoods. Today, we hopefully put an end to that struggle. Go Ride is not just another app. It represents a bold commitment to upgrade the trade of our local drivers, particularly those associated with the GPRTU. With a competitive commission rate of just 10%, our drivers are being empowered to retain more of their hard-earned money, allowing them to improve their financial stability and support their families. This is about restoring dignity to our drivers and ensuring they thrive. This initiative reflects our government's unwavering dedication to supporting local businesses and driving economic growth. By keeping the profits generated by Go Ride within our borders, we are conserving foreign exchange, fostering local wealth creation, and enhancing our national economy.
Well, now Jumia, the leading e-commerce platform in Ghana, has announced the launch of a new integrated warehouse and logistics network facility in Tema. The facility marks a significant investment in Ghana's e-commerce ecosystem and comes just in time for Black Friday, the biggest shopping campaign of the year. There's more in this report.
The new warehouse, spanning 6,000 square meters, offers significantly increased storage capacity, enabling Jumia to efficiently manage its growing product range and meet the rising expectations of Ghanaian consumers. Temidayo Ojo is the CEO of Jumia Ghana.
We've been experiencing significant growth in the Ghana market, and it just made sense as the next step to do was to invest for the future. So this warehouse, which is a 6,000 square meter ultra-modern new facility in Tema, is supposed to help us meet the demands of growing e-commerce in Ghana for the next 5 to 10 years. The good thing is that we are in a logistics park where we can have modular capacity. So our ambition is that we double this capacity in the next 2 to 3 years. And going by the growth that we are seeing in Ghana today, we believe that that would happen very soon.
By optimizing its supply chain operations, Jumia aims to reduce delivery times, expand product availability, and solidify its position as the preferred online shopping destination in the country. Presenting the Minister for Communication and Digitalization, Chief IT Officer at the Ministry, Dr. Samuel Nchijeche, said government is happy about the job creation initiative by Jumia.
Making it easier for everyone to access the essential products and services they need. Today, we commend Jumia for its invaluable role in Ghana's economic development by making tangible investment in service delivery and job creation. Jumia has proven to be a vital partner in our national mission.
It's a wrap for business, and I'm handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
Benjamin, and it's a wrap for the AM News on the AM Show. You want to stay with us because News Review comes up next. We are live for the News Review segment on the AM Show. Benjamin says I'm in red because Kwabutre won, but that's not it. But I'm celebrating with them, although I was tipping for Keta. Let me introduce my guest to you. Let me start from the birthday. I'm tempted to say birthday boy, but I can't say that now. It's birthday man. Mr. Felmoni, former GJA president, who just celebrated his birthday on Monday. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And then we also have Kwame Nkrumah Botio, the general secretary.
I like the name.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, both
you.
of you. But Mr. Moni, I do want to pick your thoughts on something. I'm not sure if you want to tell our audience how old, the age you turned on Monday, but I'd like you to share two values that you've learned all these years in your various roles, GJA president and all the other things that you've done before in your life. Two things that you share as you're just two tips for wisdom or value, something valuable you've learned in this life.
Number one, life is not a race. You should take it easy. And once you pin your hope in God,
Life is not a race.
Yeah, He will order your steps. And you do things in moderation. People are addicted to going to the extreme in whatever they do. I believe in, in moderation. Moderate in what I eat, moderate in what I do, moderate in what I say.
Yeah.
And don't be in a hurry to dance to anybody's tune or to please anybody. My only focus is to please God. Even when I falter, I believe He will raise him up.
Yeah.
So these are some of the values my children and grandchildren have imbibed. And there's a common thread that runs through them. meekness, respect for authority, elderly. And wherever they are not noisy, but they allow the value to speak for them. So those are something I think I need to share with.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So life is not a race.
Life is not a race.
Everything in moderation.
Yes, everything in moderation.
Thank you.
Don't dance to anybody's tune.
Yeah. Ah, well, Mr. Kwame Nkrumah Bosio.
Yes, sweetie.
What's on your mind this morning?
Well, on my mind is, top of my mind is the sad news about the demise of our own Auntie Ikua Donko.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hit hard. It's really hit hard. I mean, she's one of the only 2 women on the ballot. And the day that our candidate, Nana Akosua from Sapon Kumankuma, was submitting her forms, we actually took a picture with Madam Ikua Donko, and we dubbed them the women who dared. The women who dared. It is not an easy road to get to that stage. And she was a very courageous woman who taught all of us to reach for the stars. And her death should be an inspiration to all of us, both male and female, that nothing should stop you, no matter your educational background, no matter the taunts people throw at you. I mean, there were times where I was even by her, I mean, various videos went around, but she still stood her ground, and she'll be missed sorely.
Thank you for those encouraging words. We are all standing in solidarity with the families and the party.
Yeah, it's a national loss.
Anyway, Mr. Money, do you have some quick reflection about 30 seconds? Should we go straight into the papers?
I think I need to touch on an issue which should captivate the attention of well-meaning Ghanaians, especially political watchers. And this is relative to the exchange of verbal stones between Dr. Bawumia and His Excellency, former President Mahama. These exchanges are growing in intensity and ferocity. And we can spell something else. And in other parts of the world, specifically in America, you know, such exchanges pale virtually into nothingness as compared with the brazen and brutal attacks by Trump and Kamala Harris. But in a part of the world, we should be concerned because their culture is totally different from ours. They practice democracy for 3 centuries now, more. We are toddlers as far as democracy is concerned.
Yeah.
Even though we pride ourselves on the fact that for 8 years on the trot, we have voted, and on 2 occasions, power has changed hands. But we should never be intoxicated by this feat, no matter how narcotic the feeling might be. So, you know, elections, every election induces its own tensions. But if you allow tension to exceed certain limit, it can crystallize in something else. So, His Excellency Mahama and Bawumia, please be measured in your pronouncement, in attacking each other. You know, once, you know, their supporters, you know, act based on what their leaders say or do. It's so magnetic.
Yeah.
So they should be measured in attacking each other. Meanwhile, there's so many things which are relatable, which should be relatable to the electorate, which should resonate with the electorate. Cost of living crisis, even our economy is on a rebound.
Okay.
But this does not obscure the fact that we still facing some crisis, highly difficult living circumstances, which we need to tackle. SHS, fantastic idea. No, nothing beats it apart from independence. We need to improve the quality of education both at the basic and the senior secondary school level.
So we all want the same thing. So
we all want the same thing.
The attack they should look at it, because supporters will act on their words.
Yeah.
And in the end, they will be safe, but we, the citizens, the young people, will be the ones who pick up arms and go and be fighting.
Absolutely.
And all that.
Absolutely.
Wise word. Thank you so much, Mr. Moni. So let's review the newspapers. I'll start with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the front page, we need fair, firm election policing, according to Vice President and flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And he said this at the 53rd Cadet Officers graduation. Cerebral palsy, autism, suffers targets of sexual abuse in Achimtafo. That's an interesting one I want to get into. And of course, on the Boko conflict, this Chief Justice orders closure of 7 courts in Upper East Region. This is the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And then 160,000 persons living with HIV on antiretroviral treatment, according to Dr. Ado. Let's start with this story about cerebral palsy, and I'll just quickly run through the entire paper before I come to you, gentlemen. Cerebral palsy, say some women and young girls living with cerebral palsy, autism, and other forms of disabilities at Achimtafo in the Ebuakwa North municipality of the Eastern Region have become targets of sexual abuse. The Ghanaian Times investigations have reviewed. Now, most of the men who perpetrate this, should I say, horrible acts within the community most often deploy coercion or financial inducement as bait to get their victims. And in addition, those who fall victim to the abuse are quote, bribed not to disclose the identity of the attackers, or in some cases are threatened with not to disclose their predicaments to anyone. And these are people living with some conditions. This is terrible. Let me quickly run through the papers before I come to you. GFP asked to nominate new presidential candidates. We're just talking about the passing of Ekuadonko. So the party is getting ready to present somebody else as the flag bearer. So there will be no elections and there will not be reballoting, nothing of the sort. Fatal decisions.
So what about if the running mate refuses to contest? I've heard him say that he will contest, but you know, people can prevail upon him for whatever reasons not to contest, in order to bring some disorder on the ballot box. I don't know.
In that case, that would mean we have to reballot. Or they just push it out. I don't know how the EC
I don't know how it works out.
Deal with this.
But meanwhile, NDC has voiced its strong resistance to any attempt to push them from number 8.
Yeah, that's true. I'll come to you. I'll circle back to you in a bit. Increasing consumption of flavonoid-rich foods, a key anti-cancer approach. 160,000 persons living with HIV on antiretroviral treatment. ADBMD is Public Sector CEO of the Year. EU co-funded project on post-harvest losses ends. We need fair, firm election policing. So that's from Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Government committed to building effective early warning systems, says the Communications Minister. And Alakpele Dufia urges government to dredge Keta Lagoon. 5,247 students received degrees, diplomas from UPSA. On the back page, answer questions posed to you. Mahama to Bawumia. And volunteers tasked to prioritize community-driven projects. This is also an editorial. So these are the stories here in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Which of these, gentlemen, do you want to get into? I know you already started with the reballot, possibility of reballoting or presentation of a new flag bearer from the GFP. But any of these stories you want to get into at the moment? Or should I come to Kwame Nkrumah?
Yes,
Kwame Nkrumah.
Yes.
Osajefo. Which of these stories?
I want that a non-political story, the early warning system by the Communications Minister.
Yeah.
I think it's a step in the right direction. We want to hear more of such. In the political season, a lot of what is equally important seems to be drowned out by all this political fever all around us. Early warning systems are important everywhere. And even a case in point, you have the floods in Spain. It was apparently raining in another town, and then a neighboring town was inundated with water. and even with the recent hurricanes in the USA and all that. So when we have these early warning systems, it will help save a lot of lives. And we do need to keep up with these things that affect the ordinary man on the ground. Yeah. Because June 3rd is not something that is so far away. It was just a few years ago. We need to implement more of these things. And secondly, to another social interest story is the volunteers to focus on community-driven projects. I think currently everything in our system is geared towards the macro economy, macro development. We don't tackle things on the ground. Even the statistics, we look at the general statistics of the economy regarding the whole country. I think we should pay attention to these community-driven projects. Otherwise, we tend to lose the comparative advantage that our various communities have. We have certain policies that we implement across board, but sometimes the policy that will benefit a place like, let's say, I don't want to mention names, but a policy that will benefit a slum, that same policy will not benefit a place like Trazako. A policy that will benefit Trazako will not benefit a slum. Therefore, when we have these community-driven projects, especially backed by volunteers, we will be able to harness the various comparative advantages that our various communities have. And when we bring all that together, we'll be able to move the nation forward. And it ties in with the massive decentralization agenda that was under the... Of course, decentralization has been throughout, but I think that there was a lot of impact on it at a point during the PNDC era. Okay. And we should go back to that. And I think they took that from the CPP era of old, where there was concentration on voluntarism. You had the youth brigade, you had all these things. And I'm an ardent supporter of voluntarism. I remember during my national service days in 2004, there was this organization called, I think it was Voluntary Services Organization, where you were allowed to volunteer even beyond national service. And that was also the year that the Kufuor administration brought in the 2-year voluntary national service. And even after my national service, I did apply for that. If we're able to go back to those days of voluntarism, patriotism, and decentralize it down to our local areas, the country will move forward. That is how I believe the developed countries also move forward. You do things out of your heart for your country, and then we'll be able to move forward. And then we also come to Mahama's 5 questions to Bawumia. And Bawumia also, I think, gave honorable, I mean, His Excellency Bawumia, His Excellency Mahama, I have to give them the due respect. His Excellency Bawumia also threw, I think, 127 questions previously. I think they should direct some of these questions to the other candidates, especially the CPP candidate, who is poised to answer these 5 questions perfectly. Nana Akosua from Pama Sapon, Komankoma, an entrepreneur in her own right, a very strong woman.
Why do you think they're not posing these questions to her? Why do you have to ask that they ask her these questions?
Because it goes back to what the birthday man said. Yeah. It is getting a bit too personal between NDC and NPP. It should be about a development agenda. Throw it out there. My fellow candidates, what do you have to say about this? How can we move the nation forward? Then you listen to their answers, and then you propose yours that is meant to do better than theirs. It's about moving the nation forward. But we are rather looking at how to pull down other candidates. As is said in legal parlance, you win a case based on the strength of your own case and not on the weakness of your opponent's case. So let's stop dwelling on the weaknesses of the other candidates and where they have failed, and dwell on the strengths. Bring these 5 questions, I think, are amazing questions. I think they are very relevant questions. Through them, let all the candidates give their feedback on it. And even Joy can organize their own debate. Invite the presidential candidates That is how
sure they'll debate.
They will debate.
IEA debates. What happened to that? But well, this is where we are. We know that some of the flag bearers said they will not debate.
They will not debate.
Debating their opponents.
Well, for those who don't want to debate, that is fine. But I think a debate will help the Ghanaian electorate. And if Joy organizes such a debate for all the 12 candidates, it's now 12. For all the 12, whoever does not show up, then the Ghanaian electorate knows that this person does not have anything to offer the country.
I think going forward, we should make the debate a culture of our electoral process.
Yes.
Once it is in there, enshrined, either in our laws, or in our culture, I believe all the candidates will be obliged to debate each other.
Yes.
So it's no longer optional.
Yes, because now it's about loud music and T-shirts and posters, and that is what seems to win elections. But should it be so?
It should be.
But a lot of discerning Ghanaians who will not be moved by the loud music.
Absolutely.
But they seem to be in the minority.
Insults.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe they will decide on election day.
But you know, there's a history to this. This back and forth questioning, 170 questions, it's coming all the way from 2016. So don't feel bad that, you know, your flag bearer has been left out. But it makes sense that you're asking that this should be a national issue. Yes. The question should be posed to all those who seek that mandate to be president.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah, absolutely. But I do want to just pick your thoughts, Mr. Moni, on this cerebral palsy and autism sufferers who are now a target of sexual abuse in Achimtafo. I think this is bizarre. This is I don't know the word to use for it because it's just so sickening to think that these people are being targeted as victims of sexual abuse and they're threatening their lives that they shouldn't speak up. What do you make of this?
This is wickedness on the part of the perpetrators, wickedness in its most naked nastiness. So the perpetrators, I believe they are out of their minds because no sane human being will descend to that level to commit that crime. So they should have their heads examined because nobody, it's outrageous, unthinkable, incredible. So first of all, they should be made to face the biting edge of the law once they find themselves on the other side of the law. Because ours is a society governed by the rule of law. So the law should bite them and bite them hard. And this will serve as a warning to all those who take advantage of
And I think the victims should also be bold enough to speak up. It's the only way that we would, you know, find those culpable and let them face the music of justice. But if they're not speaking up and they're protecting these perpetrators,
some of them are
criminals,
so disabled to speak out, given their circumstances. So society should rally to their aid to help deal surgically with the perpetrators.
Okay. Someone, let's do your papers now.
One story which is trending, MP's vacancies. See, Chief Justice throws out Speaker's...
I believe that's the Daily Guide newspaper.
That's the Daily Guide. And the Supreme Court yesterday dismissed an application by the Speaker of Parliament, Albert Bagwin, urging it to reverse its decision to issue an interlocutory injunction against his declaration of 4 seats vacant in Parliament. A 5-member panel of the court, presided over by the CJ, held that the court's earlier decision was lawful, as the court had jurisdiction to issue a judicial review against any individual or arm of government, including Parliament, as guaranteed by the 1992 Constitution.
Yeah.
Well said by the CJ. At least there should be a final authority when it comes to such matters. But our prayer and our demand is that such authority should be rooted in law, and then should be whatever decision any arm of government takes should be done with utmost sensitivity and responsibility. The fact that you are an embodiment of the presidency or the embodiment of lawmaking or the embodiment of law...
democracy even.
Democracy. So this is a time for us to think and think hard on how best to safeguard our democracy and to ensure we do not at all slip into the gutter we found ourselves in yesteryears when democracy was overthrown, that is, some reason was overthrown, and then a military dictatorship took over. We should not give anybody any excuse to attempt to derail the progress we are making as a democratic state. Even if we are told that our democratic balance strikes, some cause of concern. If you look at Afrobarometer reports, people are losing confidence in our state institutions. In judiciary, trust is on the wane. Suspicion of partisan partiality is on the rise.
In fact, which is one of the reasons that the Speaker's lawyer, I think, wanted the judge, is it Judge Yao, to recuse himself because he's affiliated to the NPP. I mean, how did we even get here? Where a known member of a political party sits on a case that involves, parliamentary business, where it's obviously a tussle between NDC and NPP. It was very weird for me to.
Now, this was also preceded by the appointment of the General Secretary of the PNC onto the Supreme Court. So this is a time for us to do some constitutional engineering and then to ensure that nobody with partisan colors will qualify to be on the Supreme Court. The Bible, which is infallible guide of conduct, teaches us that everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial.
Yeah.
It is legally permissible to appoint politically tainted personalities onto the Supreme Court. But what will be the benefit? So we are reaping as a nation the backlash of appointing such people. We are eroding the confidence in the judiciary, and this can spell disaster of incalculable proportions on this nation.
Thank you, Mr. Moni. We have 11 days to see how the Supreme Court rules on this matter. They say
the verdict is as clear as
11 November, but
nice following day. It's as clear as that.
We wait to see.
Yes.
Mr. Nkrumah.
To add to that, I would say that, of course, under the law, there's what you call perception of bias, and there's also actual bias. And sometimes you have to look closely at the utterance of a judicial officer to know whether there's a perception of bias or there's actual bias. And you're actually entitled to reliefs if you can pinpoint that there is perception of bias or actual bias. And you can also bring up the issue of a judicial officer recusing themselves because you believe that there may be actual bias in their ruling. However, in all honesty, as a legal practitioner who's appeared before the apex court of the land a few times, I have never had reason to feel that the past political activity of any judicial officer, presently, at least in the past few years, has colored their judgments. Sometimes there are other issues that may come into play. And there have been Supreme Court rulings that have been reversed because one legal practitioner or the other was able to show that there was a perception of bias or actual bias. So there are times when these reversals have been done. There was one land case which had a chieftaincy aspect.
Right.
And the legal practitioner on the other side, I'll not mention his name.
And you wrap on this point for me so we get
okay. May he rest in peace. He was able to point out actual bias against one judicial officer, and the ruling was reversed. So I think Ghanaians should be rest assured that if there's any untoward happening, the Supreme Court will indeed take action.
But
They've taken action.
I
mean, you raise the issue of
in the Supreme Court
of perception.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the line between perception and reality is razor thin.
Yes, yes, that is true. But I, for example, as General Secretary of the Convention People's Party, if I was to become a judge one day, and I mean, you've interacted with me for a while, I don't think that just by virtue of my once being General Secretary, you would feel that may disqualify me from being a judge or sitting on certain cases regarding politics. Okay. Because if I give a ruling that is not in that line, you can always come for relief to have
so
it.
Kwame, can just imagine a very known die-hard Kotoko supporter refereeing a match between House and Kotoko.
That's the problem. I mean, it is problematic.
Yes, yes.
Problematic.
Even if it's just a perception of bias, it doesn't all go well for us because the judicial system needs people, citizens, to trust that they will be able to do what's right in the interest of us, the people.
Yeah.
And if you see somebody, well, we are pressed
and the points you always be, the points can hardly be articulated.
Yeah.
That's a critical element of rule of law is confidence in the law. So once confidence is eroded, then we head towards something.
You can't inspire confidence by playing partisan or politicizing our judicial system. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into your paper because we are pressed for time.
So
no, your newspaper.
Yes, yes. There's one story that a few stories. There's one here by Absas Kobla Nyalete on how the banks should support young businesses to reach global standards. And,
is this the political analyst?
No, he's
no,
this,
what paper is that?
This is the business analyst. The business analyst. And I think it's a step in the right direction. If you look at the talent we have in Ghana, a lot of the youth, they have great ideas. I mean, Silicon level standard ideas, but they do not have access to funding. So I think this is a step in the right direction. And if the other banks are listening to what the ABSA executive director is saying, they should take it on. Because if you have a nation where the youth are empowered economically, they will not have time to, be foot soldiers for the political parties. And I think this is a problem that a lot of the developing countries have. Because of financial issues, that is why we have a lot of our instability. Okay. A lot of what is happening in the Upper East and all that. If the youth were financially empowered, they wouldn't have time to be fighting certain battles. And to rope it into, I also want to congratulate Mr. Alaji Alasan Yakubu Tali of ADB. He's also doing a good job.
Yeah,
I think our banks are doing a good job, and they should remember the youth. They should give them access to credits. I think our pension funds too are moving in the right direction. The Ghana insurance industry records 22% growth in investment assets. You know, when the economy goes well, everything else falls into place most of the time. That is what we see in the developed countries and other places. Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Money, you have the final word in about 30 seconds. If you want to get into a story or give me a wrap of your thoughts, we have to go.
VIB commended the IGP. Let me also seize the opportunity to sprinkle a good dance of commendation on IGP. His reforms exemplified, and we need to encourage him. But more will depend on him relative to election 2024. His men should not, they should dare not fail this nation because tensions are high, the stakes incredible. So his men should be professional in dealing with potential perpetrators of violence. They should deal with them squarely. They should hide their partisan biases. You know, some of them, whether this is a known fact, when the NDC is in power, they push their men into the police. MPP does the same. But please, for the sake of Ghana, this is a time for all to subordinate a partisan interest to the supreme national interest. And the supreme national interest contextually is peace, stability, and development in freedom.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. That there is Mr. Afelmoni, former GJA president, and we also have Kwame Nkrumah Botsio, general secretary of the CPP.
Like Kwame Nkrumah Botsio.
Botsio. Well, thank you for joining us for News Review. We do have to go, but do stay for sports coming up next with Mumbarak Haruna.
Time for sports on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. We start with the Waffle Zone B Championship, where Ghana's under-20 suffered heartbreak as they lost 2-1 to Nigeria in the final. The Black Satellites conceded 2 goals in the first half, and although Jerry Friye scored in the second half to reduce the deficit, their efforts to stage a comeback fell short, which saw Nigeria crowned champions of the competition. In the Ghana Premier League, Asante Kotoko missed the opportunity to go top of the table after suffering defeat to Legon Cities in an outstanding match. As the game seemed to be ending in a draw, Rahim Yaya netted late to give the home side their first win of the season and hand Kotoko their first defeat of the season.
Top right corner. Oh, did you see that coming?
No, I never saw that. I thought he was looking for a player in the box.
Oh, just look at the movement. Very slick movement, lovely movement. But what a Kasari. He's got a height. No trouble for him at all. That was Justice Blair looking for options. The best of touch. Dennis Sodoma, lovely idea. Finds up back. That's a lovely shot. Oh my goodness! It is! It is in! Up at Yabua finds Legon City's opener. First time. First touch, and a goal is in.
What a placement!
What a touch! What a finish! Frederick Kasari is left.
I mentioned earlier.
Let's force it. Ahmed Samoa. There's entry. It's 10 inside. Left in ample of spares, but it's dropped to the man. A block, lovely hit! On the flat, Katelse. Already this season, the former great Olympics man, Ahmed Samoa. And Kwame Aziz has got a lot to do. Ahmed Samoa, and it's in. The Porcupine Warriors are back in the Capitals, who struck them from behind. No time here in Ghana's Premier University. But here comes Legon City into the tunnel. Oh my goodness! Boy, oh boy! Once again, in his dynamics. That's a lovely pass, isn't it? Kotoko defensive line. And it's watch. Here is it. Kotoko.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our big stories, and we're going to be telling you about silencing the gun to save lives ahead of the 2024 elections and in the wake of the renewed gun-related violence in Boku and its environs. We're going to be hearing from the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons, who say they're worried that our legacy of peace could be endangered by the proliferation of small arms in the country. And let's just say it's not restricted to small arms. You see people with G3s and all kinds of sophisticated arms in different parts of the country. The question is, where do we go from here? My in-house guest has taken her seat, and I kept telling her this morning that she was in red because Kwabuchi had won. I don't know whether she's an affiliate now. She's seated here, Sweetie Abochi. Oh, look at that big gun behind your head. That's not literally, but pardon me.
Do you own a gun?
I don't.
Would you, at some point in life, own a gun?
I think so.
Why?
For self-preservation.
Do you need it? Is it absolutely necessary that you own a gun to preserve your life?
You used the conditional form, would I? And I said, yes. So depending on the circumstances,
okay,
I just might. Maybe. But, you know, owning a firearm comes with a lot of responsibility. Yes. And that's why sometimes, I don't mean to rub it in for anybody, but if you remember the Stoneboy incident and pulling it out, if you didn't have it, you wouldn't pull it out. And he probably would have won that VGMA back then, not now it's changed. So, but let's bring in our guest as well. He is Programs Officer at the National Entity for Small Arms and Light Weapons, National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons, Carl Ni Anyete Soa. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, sweetie.
Carl, you have a very nice smile.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, speaking of which,
let me,
since you've brought it up, would you own a firearm?
Yes, absolutely, I would.
You would?
Yeah, to borrow your words, depending on the circumstances I find myself, should I say the environment I find myself in. If I thought it was absolutely necessary, yes, I would own a gun.
Would you prefer a taser, pepper spray, stuff like that instead of a gun?
Go all the way or go home, baby.
You're okay. Oh, all right. You're okay.
But, Carl, so let's get the conversation going. Okay. Wait, do you own a gun?
No, I don't.
Okay, great. Because, I mean, obviously, you're working against the possession of illegal arms and all that.
But if he had one, if he decided to have one, it wouldn't be illegal. He would have to do the right thing.
Yes.
So he could.
Yeah, but naturally, with my years of experience in this security space, I've come to know that you are better off without a weapon than having one. Because a gun is like a spirit, and it can actually control you. It leaves you bereft of your thinking capabilities. So I'll give you an example, the Millennium City incident. Now, who goes to the precinct of the police to commit a crime?
Yeah.
You are going to the police station, you have a gun on you, and you could and you could shoot about 7 bullets. You could actually warn, if you move, I'll shoot you and do that. I'm sure after that, you may have regretted, what have I done? But it's too late. And that is what a weapon can do. Yeah.
And you know, you remember, I don't know whether you remember the G-Man Benjilo issue. Okay. And I have seen people, you know, road rage, where you're driving and someone does something, and if you have a firearm on you, and someone does that to you on the road, if you are not careful,
it's happening.
Instead of you just pull it out.
Yes, let me just give you this one more example. Right. It's happened in Kumasi about 2 years ago. At that time, I was in charge of the Ashanti region. And around KJTia, a man, a bogger, had come, and it looks like a taxi driver crossed his way. And so they had some altercations and some arguments. So another taxi driver came in to separate them. Then out of rage, he went into his gloves compartment, not knowing he was having a pistol there. Then just pulled it out. And guess who he shot? He didn't kill the one he was having the argument with. He rather went to shoot the one who... And then, when he noticed that the mob were just about to attack, he took his own life. So a breadwinner who may have just told the family, I'm just going to work, or I'm just dashing out, I'll be back, now turns a dead body. And look at the other life he has wasted.
Yeah.
Who knows what would have happened if the mob didn't even come in? So that's why I always tell you, I'm sure if push come to shove, the worst they could have done was to exchange blows.
Yeah.
You say Ajay, and then we find somewhere to hide. Do you get it? But because there was a weapon, he wanted to show who had the power. He just goes to the gloves compartment, gets the weapon, and see what happened.
Yesterday, we had spokespersons for Mampugi and...
so the Mampusi group, and then the Kusasi group as well.
And they were telling us that young people who live in Boko and its environs own guns, and these are expensive guns, as you know, as expensive as 20,000-30,000 Ghana cedis, and they have to buy this out of necessity. We've had so many incidents of violence.
Actually, he mentioned that the kinds of guns they are using there, the G3s and the rest, you're talking of 60 to 80,000 plus cedis.
Hell yeah.
30,000 is on the lower side, you know, those, some pistols and the rest. We're talking 60 to 80,000. And I think, I don't know whether it was Maxwell or Dauda mentioning that if you have someone, money is very important in those areas. If you have someone willing to expend that amount of money to get a firearm, it means the person wants to protect himself or herself and his or her family, and it becomes a very dicey matter.
Yeah. So I just want you to paint the picture for us in terms of possession of arms. What is the status quo in Ghana right now?
Okay, so actually, because our focus is on the elections, and we don't want to create that fear and panic or add to the tension, we've made it intentional that this time we try not to be talking about figures and statistics, but then trying to cause attitudinal change. Because like he rightly mentioned, now we look at the Boko issue. People, as you speak more about it and the figures, instead of solutions, people now feel that I'm not safe. I need to protect myself. And so in the security space, it will push the demand for weapons rather high. Now people will be wanting to own weapons. As they own weapons, they may even not do it the legal way that you and I, in terms of those who regulate weapons, will know that we have this weapon with this sweet lady or this handsome gentleman. And that becomes difficult. But on another day, when you call me, when the elections are over, now we can do great... we can have a great discourse on statistics and what is being done. But I can chip in briefly that the Salient project, the Silencing the Gun to Save a Life campaign, one of the focus of that project is actually to do an assessment. We have something we call the baseline survey, and we are currently working on it, an assessment to know the actual state of play of weapons in the country. And that aspect to you, it is underway. So I'm sure by the end of the year or early next year, we will know exactly what is happening in terms of...
Let me take you back a bit. You mentioned that this is an election program, and it means that last 4 years too, you had a program like that. So what really is the intention behind the campaign, and how has it evolved over the years?
Okay, so last 4 years, we called it the ballots without bullets. So we were trying to cause attitudinal change and telling Ghanaians that elections are not war fields or a turf war, where I have to go to the polling station with a weapon. When it comes to elections, it is your intellect. It is your intellect and then your time. So you make your decision. After consulting the big man upstairs, you think that, oh, Mr. Handsome Man is the one I want to be the president. And I go to demonstrate or express that through my thumb. And so we say it is ballots. You speak by your thumb and not the bullet. So there's no need for you to carry a weapon to the police station. And we had a lot of... the major political parties coming on board. We had opinion leaders coming on board to also support the program. And so it was hugely successful, and we engaged the community as well. Just that this year, we just want to give it a little take to make it interesting. So we are calling it the Silencing the Gun to Save a Life campaign.
When you say it was successful, does it mean you were successful in removing or reducing the number of people who illegally possess these weapons? What qualifies as success? Okay, so it's a cocktail of approaches. One, we try to strengthen our public sensitization and education campaign, trying to let people know that let people know the dangers of owning a weapon, and also what it does to the development of the state, and then even the trauma.
the reprisal attacks that may come afterwards, because you shoot one person. Let's say people come in to actually solve the situation. A life has been lost. They may say, okay, but I can tell you secretly, they'll be planning on how to revenge or avenge. Yes, and it makes even conflicts stall. It prolongs conflicts that could have just been solved easily. So the first point is creating more awareness of these dangers and how it can take us back or erode the gains we are making. And then, and that is what we do through the public education. Then we come into strengthening the border security, and then even make sure that we have effective small arms control. So it's a cocktail of approaches. And then you see that by the end of the elections, you realize that it was more peaceful because the campaign had gone on well. People had given their support to the campaign publicly. So you can't do otherwise because you stood before your constituents, made that declaration live on TV, on the camera. They were there. You signed the pact, and you were given a token. And so we last 4 years, we had something like a gun where the muzzle and the chamber had been folded. So that is what we call is the symbol of the silencing the gun. So actually, the silencing the gun is a flagship campaign by the African Union to end conflict and war in Africa by 2030. And Ghana, being a beacon of hope, and I like how Mr. Hanselman, tried to speak about that, because we need to maintain that beacon of hope. Because if you look at Africa, now it is Ghana, when it comes to democratic reign, who is actually still on top. Through the electionary period, you see that there are a lot of issues, but Ghana has been able to keep the flag. And this is the time that the whole world is looking at us. It is the time that if we want to prove that we are democratic, we are peace-loving people, where the people see us outside from outside to be, this is the time we need to demonstrate. We must vote wisely, peacefully, devoid of gun violence. And that is what the Silencing the Gun campaign is aiming to achieve. And just for clarity, before Ben comes in, this campaign is against illegal possession of firearms, not the legal possession, right? Yes. So illegal possession of firearms. But we'll be glad to if people would trust the security agencies. Now, from where I sit, we have refresher courses with all the security agencies, because the work we do, you can't do it in silos. It's a teamwork. We work in tandem with them. And I can tell you that there have been refresher courses and trainings upon trainings. Just yesterday, we were in one with all the security agencies. So let's trust in the security apparatus so that we will not have the need to own weapons ourselves. They are equipped, they are trained. We need to trust them. And there will be peace.
And I think it's an important point you make at the end, that it's not just about legally possessing guns. Look at the United States.
Yes.
And some of what we're seeing, mass shootings and the rest.
Yes.
There are those who legitimately use them, but it's also to discourage even the use of or possession of firearms.
Yes.
Because again, even security operatives who have been trained, from time to time, you hear some of them misusing the firearms.
Thank you.
Because of that power that it seems you have.
Yes.
I've seen one before somewhere where, because the person was a security operative, whisked out a gun, and the civilian was, but it's because this person had a firearm.
Yeah.
So even among security operatives, it can be a dicey affair. Yes. But specifying, because there was that recent Reuters report that some in the security space have said, no, it is not a reflection of what is happening in Ghana. I'm sure you know of that report. But if you look at Boku currently, let's specify. What picture do you see in terms of small arms? For a number of years, there were amnesties granted by your commission. Many people did not take advantage of that. What is the status of Boku, and what do you see to be the possession rates? I know you don't want to talk figures, but what is happening there as far as you know?
So thank you for the opportunity. Now, before I pass any comments on Boku, I would want to plead with all social and political commentators not to try to politicize what is happening in Boku. Yeah. Because the Boku issue is actually a very delicate issue.
Very inflammatory.
Yes. And the moment you begin to politicize, don't forget that in the era we find ourselves, we are now in the political season. People are diehard fans of political parties. So if you begin to point accusing figures, you rather make people take entrenched positions, and that will even widen the gap as we try to bring in dialogue. So we'll plead with that. Now, the issue of Boko, you see, where Boko finds itself, looking at the northern part of Ghana, and if we look at the Sahel, and then the adjoining regions, the instability there. So you were mentioning the cost of weapons. So it may be, so assuming without admitting, some of the people you are talking about may not even be in the position to own those weapons, to buy the weapons themselves. Yeah. But we have something we call spillage and leakages. So if there is fight in the Sahel, and looking at the borders, the porous borders, these weapons could come in cheap. It could come in because people also want to finance their terrorism acts in their regions. So a weapon that will cost like 60,000, you could just sell it like 5,000, just make money to finance. So that's why I said, assuming without admitting. So I'm not saying that is true, but I'm trying to create the picture. And that is why it is alarming. And we are trying as a security apparatus, in terms of all of us, to make sure that we control the issues. So yes, by the videos and per the gunshots that we are hearing, you know that we have an issue in Boko. Now, it takes you and I to support the security agencies by watching the commentary we give, even as they try to calm down tempers. Because like I said, lives have been lost, people would want to attack. And so any wrong move in terms of negative commentary will rather spark rage and reprisal attacks. But because as I know, a lot is being done behind the scenes, because these are security matters. A meeting was held. They can't come out to tell you everything because some are security matters. It will be kept indoors, and then they'll work at it. So
I bring up that point, of course, ahead of the elections. We also want to ensure, because any problem anywhere, it could be a problem everywhere. And like I said yesterday, if you have a pocket of a problem and you think, oh, it's up north, it can come down south. The issue, though, is, shouldn't we get to the point, knowing it's such a hot spot, and again, this will maybe be my final bit on Boko before we go to general matters, where we de-arm or disarm probably everybody in that enclave. There could be some exercise, because asking people to willingly bring arms, it's not going to happen. Looking at the factionalism that is happening there, is that something that you think can be done? Because if the arms are not there, yes, there are other weapons, but if the bullets, the guns are not there, at least you are halfway through resolving part of the crisis. If you look at the recent spate of, it is arms they are using. What do you think? Okay, so you have a point there, but it won't entirely solve the situation. No, I'm not saying it will entirely. Yes. So I'll approach it this way. The security, like I said, there's been a meeting. They are trying to get things worked on. Now, so I'll give you from the small arms point. Forcing people to give up their arm, or trying to get them to give up their arm by force, may not yield the needed results. Because some may even hide the weapons and you wouldn't know. Unless you are given tip-off, you wouldn't know. Because if the person still feels that I still need that weapon, he may dig and hide the weapon or start it away where you wouldn't know. So when you try to let them know that you don't need this weapon or the dangers that associates with it, they may willingly want to give it up. I think that where it is going, in any security situation, first and foremost, the nation tries to take control through the security agencies. And that is what they are doing there with the curfew, trying to calm matters, and then the security will take control. Now from there, if the powers that be assess and they feel that amnesty, which you spoke about, is what is needed, they will call for amnesty. So I'm sure they are weighing the options. But what we are doing as a commission, through this Silencing the Gun to Save a Life campaign, is by looking at our borders. So we are doing capacity building for our officers at the borders. We have officers in the border towns to make sure that we man the borders very well. They are contemporary in terms of their search, so that we can stop the leakage or the spillage of these weapons from the Sahel,
from, I don't want to mention the countries, but we know the instability so that it wouldn't come in. We are even thinking, we've actually spoken to partners who have promised to support us to own drones. Because, you know, the border regions, they are very wide. And there are a lot of porous, unauthorized routes.
We do have porous borders.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And that is, so the porous borders, we are actually, that's the capacity building and equipping them to be sure that where we have the approved borders, we are top-notch in terms of the discharge of our duties. And that is, we've been having capacity buildings as part of the silencing the gun to save a life campaign, where all the border officers, in terms of national security, immigration, customs, the commission itself, all the police, they have those training. And yesterday was one of the trainings we had. Beyond that, we are looking at how to man the unapproved routes, because it is vast. Today, you man here, and you know miscreants and criminals, they will always find a way to try to serve the system. They will open up another route. So when we have drones, we have a control center, and then the drones can now man those routes. And then if there's anything, if there's any someone trying to use an unapproved route, they can actually swoop in.
About how many drones do you think you need?
So minimum 100 would do.
Okay, that's you work hand in glove, hand in hand with the National Security Ministry, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And actually, all in the Ghana police, and then
I know. I just intentionally mentioned them. Okay. Do you know why I ask?
No, please.
Because we contracted, you know, we got drones into the country, supposedly, to fight Galamsey. We're supposed to get about, what, over 200 drones, almost 300 drones, for the purpose of Galamsey. I mean, these are industrial, large-scale drones that can also be used for other purposes. We can't find those drones. I'm just saying that if those drones were available, you probably would get the 100 you need, and the 100 could be used for other things, and you could get the 100 you need, tops, to go and do your work. But maybe someday, whether spiritually or physically, we'll find the drones. And when we do, sweetie. Because you see how these things have a ripple effect. Years ago, we spent, was it $3 million or so to get 200 or so drones. Yeah. And we can only account for 3. In fact, 3 were shown back then. The 197, we don't know where they are. But if indeed value for money and accountability were taking place, you see, they need drones to ensure that their work goes on speedily. And these are drones that could equally serve their purpose. But the drones are not available.
Where are the drones? But I want to stay on your theory, assuming without admitting, about how the conflict in the Sahel region in no small way contributes to the possession of illegal firearms that we are seeing in Boko and its environs. You did say, though, that we should trust the security agencies to keep us safe. So reconcile this for me. Prior to this campaign, how equipped were these security agencies? And this conflict has been going on for decades. What has actually been done to sieve or stop completely these firearms, illegal firearms that would or would not be sold at cheap prices relatively, from getting into these towns so that people do not take each other's lives?
All right. Thank you very much.
How equipped were they to handle these?
So the security agencies are equipped, but then you know that when we talk about organized crime, smuggling and trafficking becomes complicated. And the criminals always try to be a step ahead. And that is why there's the need for these refresher courses and capacity building, so that when we pick up intelligence, we quickly know their modus operandi, what they are using now. Because what they used yesterday or even a week ago, it will surprise you, it's no more what they are using now. The routes they are using, the mode of transportation is no more. There was a time that they were using donkeys they were trained. But it will surprise you that if you are still thinking about donkeys, they may be using cattle. Okay. Do you get it? Or even birds. You will never know. So you need to be contemporary. So that is what makes, because of the dynamic nature of the terrain when it comes to organized crime and trafficking, that is why you always have to have these refresher courses and trying to get new technology, even with the scanners. We are trying to get more sophisticated ones. That could actually, because now, maybe what you have scans metals. Now the criminal bringing in a weapon may not necessarily bring it in whole. it will strip the weapon.
Yeah.
Cannibalize it.
That is it. So if you just put a scanner, it will detect a metal. And supposing that it stashes it in a bag of spare parts, you wouldn't really know, because you know that they are metal. So when it scans and it beeps as a metal, you wouldn't know. But when you have specialized scanners, that picks up weapons. When you scan and it's even metals, it can pick. Once it sees the part of a weapon, it will just tell you that, check this bag, there is something foreign in there. And that is where we are getting to.
Okay, I operate with, trust but verify, right? And I do want to get this confidence. At the end of this conversation, I want you to inspire confidence in our audience to trust the security agencies. So can you quantify it? Can you say that between, say, 2020 and 2023, due to your special operations, capacity building, and so on and so forth, you've been able to seize or stop a number of these illegal firearms from entering the country, especially in these areas where we are seeing pockets of violence all over?
There's been a lot. I can't quantify it because I told you we were not trying to go into figures, so I didn't really bring the figures along. But I can tell you we've actually intercepted explosives in Aplao and Akano. Yes. So the security, yes, in Akano. It's also there in the Volta region, where the military had to come in to transport it for safekeeping until, investigations have to go on. There's been interception of firearms. But because I didn't know that, we made it a point not to be going to figures, so I didn't bring the statistics along. But the security, I can tell you. So if just yesterday we were in a training like that, we left almost after 5. And that should tell you how we are taking this serious. Some had to come from all the way from Paga, Boko, itself, Lubo, because it's a serious issue. And it's something that is ongoing. We've been to Aplao to have capacity building. We've been to Elubo to have capacity building. We've been to Takrady as part of the silencing the gun to save a life campaign. We've also been to Secretary Takrady. We've been to Tema as well. And that should tell you. And it's ongoing. There's a list of places that we need to go, even beyond the elections. Because after the elections, that is when we need to be even more alert. So the campaign even goes beyond the elections, because we must ensure that the peace we sustain before, during, is also sustained afterwards.
Is this campaign also looking at policy reforms or something of the sort? Do share with us.
Yes, it is.
What kind of policy reforms?
Okay, so
I just got curious. I was looking at this LI. This legislative instrument that LI 2481 that talks about fees and charges for owning a firearm. And I think this, in my opinion, is too cheap. The charges are too cheap. Anybody can, but you tell us about
So as part of the Salient project, so the Salient actually is the Saving Lives entity, So that is what we call the Salient Fund. So through the UNDP, they've supported us. And one of the main things they want us to achieve during this project is to ensure that there is a legal reform. Our laws, they are very old. The laws that govern weapon acquisition and use is the Arms and Ammunition Act, 1972.
Yeah.
It's old. So we are trying to, and we've actually gone far. Okay. Yes. So very soon we'll have robust laws that will actually help us to govern. But I always say this, that the laws are made for man, but not man for the laws. So if we have the laws and then we don't have good attitude and responsible people, the laws will be there and still there will be issue. Yeah. So even as we have a robust law, let us all try to choose dialogue over violence. Let us all try that in this campaign period, even as we lead to the elections, let us be tolerant of each other's ideas. You may choose A, I may choose B. Let us vote. Let your thumb do the talking and not violence or not the gun. So that is the slogan for the Silencing the Gun to Save a Life campaign. Let your thumb do the talking and not the gun.
Carl, before you go, my very final bit for you, briefly.
Yes.
The statistics point to the fact that in the region, and I think we should look at sub-Saharan Africa, you're looking at about 100 million illegal arms. 10% of them are in West Africa, okay? Of that, when you come to Ghana, the last reports that we saw from your commission point to the fact that only 1.2 million out of the 2.3 million are properly registered or regulated, right? It leaves about 1.1 million in the mix.
How are you dealing? Because if you look at Tyne, if you look at Odododiodo, if you look at, I can mention all of them, Tichiman North, you would see that sometimes it is the security services, but a lot of the time too, it is NPP and NDC members wielding guns. You remember the Mamubi incident recently, where there was this gentleman who has now been apprehended with a gun. How are you dealing with the political parties ahead of election 2024 to ensure that they are also under control and that they control their members? That's my final bit to you.
All right.
Briefly.
Okay, so I'll come to that, but briefly to touch on so that people will not be too alarmed. Now, when we say illicit weapons, so if you have a weapon, by the 31st of December, the license expires. You need to renew it. So when you own that weapon and you've not gone to renew it, it becomes illicit. So supposing we are doing the statistics tomorrow, that weapon will also add up to that statistic because you've not come to renew. And that's what part of the campaign. We are telling people that if you have a weapon, make sure you renew the, your license after 31st December. If not, it becomes illicit. And you could face the law, the wrath of the law if you are apprehended. Now, back to your question. As part of the Silencing the Gun to Save a Life campaign, there is broad stakeholder engagement where they all commit to a peaceful and gun violence-free election. And the political party leaders, the MPs are all, we've started the stakeholder engagement where they will give, they will make a video in support of it and pledging to peace and it to be shared. We've done that with the Foreign Ministry, we've been to the Electoral Commission and the rest. And now we are going to the political parties themselves. So it is part of the plan. They will assure their members and call them to order that we don't want peace. So if you are the one, if you're a political party member and you see the video going around where your leader pledges to peace, a gun violence-free election, when that leader comes to you, calling you to wield arms, don't do it. Remind them of that video and the pledge they made. And in any case, I always say this, the leaders, if you want to rule a nation and the people end up killing themselves, who will be the people you would want to rule?
Right.
Would you want to rule a place where there is anarchy and trouble? We only have one Ghana. It is our duty to make sure that we protect the peace that we have with all that it deserves. Thank you very much.
We are grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us for this discussion. We are playing our part. You are playing your part. Hopefully, all of us out there will also play our part to ensure that we maintain peace in Ghana before, during, and after the elections. Let your ballot count, not your bullet. Yes. And let's save lives with our actions. And I guess that's why the United States also, its embassy here has taken that recent action to sort of clamp down on some of those actions. We had joining the conversation Programs Officer with the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons in the person of Carl Ni Anyete Soa. He joined us for this conversation. Once more, we are grateful to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, do stay with us. We'll be back with more action as we proceed with our big stories right here on the AM Show. We'll be right back.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin took aim at the judgment of the Supreme Court that stayed his ruling on those 4 seats. He asked his lawyers to file an application to get that set aside. But even before that argument will be had in court, his lawyer was on his feet in opposition to one member of the panel, Justice Yao Enes-Gayeu.
He was known to be associated with the New Patriotic Party. And in fact, he was a parliamentary candidate in one of their constituencies in the Volta region.
I think you said enough.
Very well. And
yes.
I just want to demonstrate from, especially again.
No, I think you said enough.
From the
I think you
proceedings.
said no. I think you said enough. Kindly resume this.
Very well.
After listening to the arguments on both sides, the Supreme Court, the 5-member panel, did not agree with Thaddeus Sori, lawyer for the Speaker, that Justice Yao Enes-Gayeu should recuse himself from the case.
This court must take judicial notice of the fact that within the ranks of the Superior Court is a former Member of Parliament for the National Democratic Congress, a former General Secretary of the People's National Convention. The subject matter of this suit before this court is a constitutional dispute and not a matter involving political parties. The objection is therefore misconceived. Move your application.
The court then zoomed into hearing the substantive case. It first heard from Tadiosori, who raised a litany of issues with the judgment of the Supreme Court, which he said should convince the same court to vacate that earlier ruling.
The writ or the processes on the basis of which the court's jurisdiction was invoked for the order are void because they were filed in violation of the rules of the court. That irregularity is incurable. That even if it were curable, which it is not, the court's jurisdiction, substantive jurisdiction, to entertain the matter as a whole was not properly invoked.
The Attorney General himself actually did come in and raise some points of law which he said simply made the case of the Speaker of Parliament untenable.
Whenever a decision of a court is being sought to be reviewed, varied or discharged, the procedure for doing so is as set out in the Constitution. And this is not an invocation of any of those procedures.
After hearing these arguments in court, the five-member panel unanimously dismissed the position that was canvassed in court by the Speaker of Parliament and his lawyers.
We have considered the application and find that the grounds supporting the application have no merit because of the very explicit and clear directions of the 1992 Constitution, specifically Article 2, Article 130, and Article 296, and established decisions of the Supreme Court from decades of the country's constitutional history.
The court has now adjourned to 11th November to hear this case again, and the expectation is that on the same day, the court will hand down its judgment on the interpretation of Article 97, 1G and H, which talks about whether or not if a member of parliament decides to contest as an independent for the next election, he vacates his seat, and also whether or not an independent member of parliament who decides to join another political party and contest on the ticket of that party for the next parliament also loses his seat. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Supreme Court, Accra.
Judge starts speaking, you stop. Do you not appreciate that?
Oh, my lady, I don't think my lord thought I interrupted.
So the question is, from the courtroom, where do we go from here? Especially after the Apex Court tore into the Speaker's decision to declare 4 seats vacant, arguing that his decision had serious implications for the thousands of Ghanaians who lined up to vote for these parliamentarians. The reason for which the Supreme Court was constitutionally clothed with the power to make pronouncements on the matter, though it has not pronounced on that substantive matter yet. We delve into the matters arising with our guests this morning. We have Kweku Paintel, he's a lawyer. We have Inusah Fuseini, also a lawyer. He is a former legislator for Tamale Central. He joins the conversation, and former minister as well. He joins the conversation. Inusah Fuseini, let me just start with you to be sure you are here with us. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. How are you?
I'm well. I hope you are too.
I'm fine.
All right. A very good morning to you, Mr. Paintel, Kweku Paintel. At least you are fortunate to be in the studio, so a line will not drop this morning. Okay. So, Inusah, just hold for me. I want to start with Kweku Paintel and get him to share his thoughts on the happenings of yesterday and what you made of the court's proceedings as far as the petition by the Speaker of Parliament and the ruling of the court. And I want you to add, I want both of you gentlemen, there seems to be a trend. Some people say that the Chief Justice is a bit too boisterous, and some even suggest disrespectful sometimes. But if you know what happens in court, you know that sometimes it can get pretty rancorous. But
Where do you sit on these two quick points before we proceed?
The boisterousness of the CJ, or which one are you talking about?
Both of them, whichever one you
I'll
want to
put it
react.
this way. I mean, there are comments I'd rather not make. In other words,
I know it's an uncomfortable territory for all of us, but
I've ever made some comments about some lady in very formal proceedings which was taken not to be too kind for women.
Okay.
Because there can always be an interpretation given to some of these things. But I would say that from my own experience, judges generally, they differ so much in attitude and everything. So the constant theme every time that I talk to my juniors is take a judge for what he is. Never make an assumption about any judge. Some judges are so calm, some judges are boisterous, some are prone to anger and all kinds of things that you can never compare two judges and claim that they are the same in any way. Yes, so that's the way I will take it. I mean, that's from my own observation at the bar. Never, ever. It's a very dangerous thing to think that every judge will behave the same. Right. But the important point is about the law. At the end of the day, it's the law that we all go to court for. The form in which justice may appear to be dispensed may make somebody uncomfortable. A judge can make you uncomfortable and still get a judgment in your favor. And so those judgments will be left to be shared on some other platform. But we are here speaking matters of law, and I'd rather concentrate on matters of...
So that brings me to the other point I asked you to reflect on. Basic view of what happened yesterday, brief one, because we are not getting into the meat of it yet.
You're right. For anybody who has been listening to me on this subject, at least even in this studio, I personally was not really surprised by what happened. It's something that I had indicated and stated over and over to be the clear position of the law, except that every time I've made that statement, I'm a little careful to state that my view may not be taken to represent the state of the law, because it always takes a court of law to make a ruling. And whether you agree or not is a different matter. But based on what happened yesterday, it's like the kind of predictions that I myself had made with regard to the substantive matter that is before the court. And indeed, if you allow me to make a comment too early in the day, it exposes the contradictions, in my view, that exist in the speaker's position from day one up to yesterday.
Okay, we'll get into those points, but briefly, just a quick thought. Again, and I know Inusah is in the wings waiting to get his thoughts across. Clarify for me, you have 97(1)G and H. If they don't kick in when the act is committed, and they are supposed to kick in after the fact, post facto, right?
Yes.
Which may be in the next parliament. What is the effect of the law?
No, when you talk about kick...
Then it makes the law redundant, doesn't it?
It's based on interpretation. You know, whether, I mean, the question that you're asking assumes, for instance, that your interpretation of the effect of those two clauses are what the speaker, for instance, thinks, which I fundamentally disagree.
No, I am merely thinking as an individual that if this is what the law says, and we say that it must only take effect from the next parliament, for example, right? Someone may not make it to the next parliament, then that matter is resolved on its own. If the person does make it, there are no punitive measures in the first place. So does that not make those clauses moot? It makes them moot, doesn't it?
It can be moot only on the basis of the assumption.
Okay, all right. So let's hold it there. Let's bring in Inusah Fuseini. You have different things to look at. Your basic view of what happened yesterday before Sweetie starts ushering us into the key points, the decisions that were made.
So I'm going to start from where you started with Mr. Kuku.
With what?
So the courts are not tainted by the boisterousness or condescending nature of judges.
Could you repeat that for me? Could you just speak up? Repeat that for me, please. The
court is not tainted. The court is not tainted by by the boisterousness of a judge.
Okay.
Or the condescending nature of the judge.
Okay.
What the court should be concerned with, and what individuals are interested in knowing of judges, whether they exude the law, they speak the law, whether they take facts into consideration in arriving at their decisions. What evidence are they making their decisions on? That's what individuals. So a person, the idiosyncrasies of the judge cannot be the law.
All right.
Now, the second thing is, my view is the Supreme Court is becoming too inconsistent for my liking. It is not for nothing that the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land. So their decisions are binding on all other courts. And so when the Supreme Court gives decisions which appear to be inconsistent, it erodes the basic principle of democracy, that is the rule of law. And simply put, the rule of law simply says that individuals, citizens of a country, must be able to predict the consequences of their actions or decisions with reasonable certainty. That's the rule of law. So predictability and certainty are cardinal in a democratic setting.
Are you saying that the predictability of the court's decisions, of course, there could be precedent, there could also be a departure from past decisions, but are you saying that the predictability of, the judicial system is being watered down, is being taken away?
Yes, it's being watered down. It's being chipped away gradually. Gradually. And I can give you an example. And that's why when the decision of the Supreme Court, and there has been long-standing decisions of the Supreme Court that have said that when a person is elected into Parliament, it's prima facie that the election is right until set aside. That person is validly elected into Parliament until that decision is set aside. Now, the election is nullified. Now, when the Supreme Court makes a decision that way, one will say that the Supreme Court is holding the principle of representation very high. It's giving vent to Article 97 that prioritizes representation. And when the Supreme Court backtracks and says that somebody should be restrained from attending Parliament by reason of abdication of a dispute in court,
right?
Then it introduces inconsistency. And then you have the very Supreme Court that prides the place of representation in our democratic setup, refusing, failing, or neglecting to settle the issue of Central Fee, Akpafo, Lolobi, and Lipe expeditiously. And then the Supreme Court gives as justification the reason why they are staying the execution or issuing temporary measures to prevent the execution of or expulsion of the 4 rogue MPs from Parliament. Right. And then they cite representation. So how do you reconcile that?
Okay, so fundamentally what you're saying is you disagree with the ruling.
No, I disagree. No, that's a different. We are coming to that. I disagree entirely with the ruling to say the execution of the ruling of a backward. Entirely. And I make no apologies. Entirely. The Supreme Court had no business in the execution.
Okay.
The Supreme Court's jurisdiction is circumscribed by the Constitution.
All right. Inusah.
And they refer to it when they were giving their ruling.
All right. Inusah, we'll get into the substantive case. Sweetie, will start with Kweku Paintil in the studio. But you've made mention of something that brings me to a point. Tadia Sori yesterday made a point about the fact that Justice Gayu, had some political tainting, and that because of that, because he had contested on the ticket of the MPP or had wanted to become a member of Parliament, that made him unfit to sit on the case, that specific case. And mention was made that there's a judge from the CPP stock and another one from the NDC stock in the past. Is it a problem if on political issues there is a judge who is sitting who also has shown in the past some leanings towards a political party? Is it a problem? Just give me a brief response on that.
It's a problem. It's a problem because it leads to a perception that justice will manifestly not be seen to have been done.
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that response. Sweetie, over to you. I don't know whether you want to talk about that.
Not yet, but something you said, Mr. Penso, that the Supreme Court has the right to interpret the Constitution whether you agree or not, right? You said that. Right. But the substantive issue is whether or not that was the right platform to seek interpretation or to, send your concerns to. It was supposed to be the High Court. So does it matter that they are using the Supreme Court rather than the High Court, which the Constitution has made provision for?
The practice has always been that when the Supreme Court shares concurrent jurisdiction, or even concurrent advisedly, in other words, where there's power to go to the High Court or go to the Supreme Court, there have been cases where you can go to the High Court, but the Supreme Court is the supreme on the land, because I know the provision
the Constitution specifically made provision for this.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we jumped that, and we are the Supreme Court now. Does it not matter?
It does not matter for the reason that in the instant case in which we find ourselves, the going to court was consequent upon the Speaker's specific conduct. In other words, the Speaker has made a pronouncement which essentially sought to disqualify 4 MPs from Parliament. In doing what he did, the Speaker sought to interpret the Constitution even though he claimed that what he did did not amount to interpretation, and that it fell within his competence even to make the pronouncement without he appearing or being seen to interpret the Constitution, which is something that I fundamentally disagree. And therefore, in the particular context that we find ourselves, where the matter before the court was to seek for an interpretation. See, if you go to the article that you mentioned in the rules that give the High Court jurisdiction, it's a case where you go to the court as a substantive matter. In the substantive matter, the facts are there, and then you go to court, invoke the High Court jurisdiction. In the instant case, it's an interpretation of what was happening in the light of the Speaker's conduct to oust these 4 MPs from Parliament. And the Supreme Court was being called upon because in doing what he did, the Supreme Court sought to interpret. He may not have used the language, interpretation, but essentially what he did amounted to an interpretation of the article of the Constitution, which he claimed was not an interpretation, or as long, my understanding of what the Speaker did was that anything that he did within the context of what he did, even though it involved his appreciation of that constitutional provision, did not amount to an interpretation, which in my view is dead wrong, insofar as he sought to rely. And he quoted those specific provisions of the Constitution in what he did.
So now the Supreme Court has tore into the Speaker's ruling.
That is so.
Do you agree with the outcome of yesterday's sitting?
I wholly and wholeheartedly agree with the view that...
We just heard Inusah Fuseini says he disagrees.
No, you see...
What's your argument?
No, with respect to Inusah, if we're lawyers, you disagree. See his starting point. He's talking about inconsistencies with Supreme Court, whatever. Could the inconsistency be the basis for disagreeing with what the Supreme Court did yesterday? Because this sort of thing that he talked about, the facts, the court are supposed to be consistent, but let the facts and the evidence be the same. It is only within those contexts that you can say that the Supreme Court is not being fair and so forth and so on. Nobody is denying anybody in this country a right to be represented in Parliament. The Supreme Court specifically, in making an issue about the urgency of this matter, referred to the peculiar circumstances of this case, being the fact that these were MPs who have sat in Parliament for 4 years and they've got 2 months to end their term of office, and within those 2 months, somebody has made an interpretation that suggests that they should no longer be there. It is within that particular context. If you look at the facts and the evidence in the Saul case, they never even had a parliamentarian to begin with. Nobody really is claiming that they are not entitled to representation in Parliament. But in fairness and with due respect, if you compare the facts and the evidence, they don't raise the same issue as the Supreme Court said. You may say they are inconsistent, but what are the facts? What is the evidence in support of those allegations? So in my honest view, unless my good friend is coming up with the substantive reasons why he thinks the Supreme Court erred on the peculiar facts of this case, the facts are never the same. The facts and the evidence are never the same. That's my honest view about it. But I'm sure you have an opportunity to respond.
Yes, he will have an opportunity to respond. In fact, let's go to him right away. Mr. Inusah Fuseini, so make your argument now. Mr. Pencil is saying that he's 100% in agreement with the outcomes from the court yesterday. And you are saying that's because of the inconsistencies and, you know, issue. What is your argument, really? Let's hear you out. So
first of all, one must know that the Supreme Court's jurisdiction is constitutional. The Supreme Court's jurisdiction is not at large. So all of us know, including Mr. Pencil, that the Supreme Court has no speculative jurisdiction. I listened and read the ruling of the Supreme Court when they stayed the execution of the ruling or order of Mr. Speaker declaring the cease vacant. They gave basically 3 reasons. One was that government business will be affected. Mr. Pencil says you must look at the facts. So what facts were before the court that led the court into arrival at a decision that government business will be affected? That's the first one. The second one, what they said, was the fact that the people were not given a hearing. I said, Mr. Supreme Court, you are looking at Article 97. Article 97C, 1C should guide you. Because where the drafters of the Constitution intended that natural justice rule will apply, they provided it in the Constitution, in the same article. So when a member of Parliament absents himself for a 15 sitting days without the written permission of the Speaker and with a reasonable explanation to the Committee on Privileges, his seat is declared vacant. So when you read it, you'll be left in no doubt that the drafters of the law intended that natural justice rules will apply. Then they talked about a representation. Yes, so he's talking about the fact. But what is the outcome? I'm looking at the outcome. You are looking at representation. I didn't say that somebody's facts are different from another person's facts, or they are the same. But I'm saying that if a constitution prizes representation, consistency is very important in ensuring that we send a clear message to the people of this country that this is what we mean by representation. 3, Mr. Kuku Pencil, the Supreme Court's jurisdiction to interpret the Constitution is a jurisdiction given to them by us, we the people of this country, in exercise of our inalienable right, establish those institutions and gave them specific mandates. Their mandates are not at large. And so if the Supreme Court is interpreting the Constitution, I have absolutely no problem. But Mr. Pencil, you say nobody should pretend to be interpreting the Constitution. As a lawyer, on a daily basis, you interpret the Constitution to guide your affairs based on your understanding of the provisions. But that doesn't make your interpretation authoritative, binding, and final. What the Supreme Court does is a final, binding, authoritative interpretation. So when in 1998 or thereabouts, when J.H. Mensa went to court and sought an interpretation of the provisions, particularly Article 78, and whether the newly elected government had a duty to have the ministers it was appointing vetted. The court said yes, because the tenure of office of the minister and the president are coterminous, and since the president's tenure of office was over, the ministers appointed thereafter, after winning a re-election, ought to go through vetting. That was a binding, authoritative interpretation, and we all followed.
Right.
We all followed.
So looking at
that is what we are saying. So we are saying that nobody is disputing the power and jurisdiction of the courts to interpret the Constitution. But the courts have no jurisdiction where another creature of government, an arm of government, is performing its duties consistent with the Constitution and the standing orders, particularly Parliament. It is the Constitution that says in Article 97 that the Speaker declares those things vacant. He didn't invite or invoke any other provision. He invoked that provision. Granted that his invocation of that provision does not speak to what Article 97, 1, G and H mean.
Right.
It is the Supreme Court that will settle it. There's no problem. Now, the fact that, and you raise the question, it is under Article 99, I think 99.4 or so, that says that the High Court shall have the power to declare whether a person has been validly elected or a seat has become vacant. That is not mutually inconsistent. Specifically on the member of Parliament, specifically on the member, so that's a specific jurisdiction given to the High Court to determine whether or not a person has been specifically or eligibly elected or the person's seat has become vacant. The jurisdiction that they sought to invoke is an interpretative jurisdiction, and that binds everybody in this country.
Okay, thank you. Hold for me.
So it is totally wrong to suggest that nobody interprets the Constitution except the Supreme Court.
All right.
Everybody interprets the Constitution on a daily basis, except that where there is a conflict in the interpretation. It is only the Supreme Court that has a final, binding, and authoritative interpretation on the provision.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fuseini, hold for me. So, Mr. Pensa, I'll give you the chance to respond. So he's saying that no one is challenging the powers of the Supreme Court, but it just appears that they are interfering in parliamentary business in this case.
There's a contradiction even in what he said. In the first place, you are suggesting to us that when the Speaker sits to purport to interpret the Constitution, it is his jurisdiction to do that. I say no. I agree that everybody has his interpretation of basically everything, not only of the Constitution. But when anybody sits in whatever capacity to purport to interpret or to do anything that suggests that he's giving a meaning to a constitutional clause, in the instant case, in the provisions that we have mentioned, that is what the Speaker sought to do. The sole issue...
Mr. Paintil,
yes.
These 4 members of Parliament
yes.
have filed
yes.
with the Electoral Commission, and they were still in Parliament.
Yes.
I asked you this question the last time we had this conversation.
Yes.
Who did it really fall to ensure that they got out?
No, that's what I disagree. That's
so
nothing.
They shouldn't have. They should
no,
just stay there to the end of the term.
No, it's an attempt to interpret their conduct in relation to those 2 clauses. And please, because the Supreme Court is going to rule on that matter, all that I have done so far is to give my understanding of these same 2 constitutional provisions that you are mentioning. And please, you can mark me out, because the last time I did a wager with Amanda on this matter as to what interpretation she was going to give to those 2 provisions. And it is my view of the matter that the interpretation that other people seek to give to those 2 clauses to suggest that an intention to contest the election, not on the ticket of how he came into Parliament, amounts to abdication, amounts to a departure, amounts to whatever other than being a member of Parliament, is, in my honest view, very wrong. And please, this matter will be resolved only when the Supreme Court gives its interpretation of the same 2 clauses. I'm so convinced, in my view, I may be wrong.
Okay.
But then let the Supreme Court rule, because when the Supreme Court rules on that matter, it resolves all of these arguments. And the country, at least on party lines now, let me put it this way, is divided over that issue. It appears that every member of a parliament who belongs to the NDC thinks that those two clauses ought to be interpreted in a particular way. It appears that everybody in the NPP also thinks otherwise. I sit here not as a member of any of these parties, but as a lawyer with my own understanding of the same constitution. I may be wrong. But once I've stated my view, I can't make it clearer than the way I've put it. And I would rather hold on for the Supreme Court to rule on that matter. And when the Supreme Court rules, we'll all be bound by it. My view of the matter clearly is that any other interpretation that is put on those two clauses to suggest that by giving an intention to leave Parliament.
That's where I have a challenge. You call it an intention, but it's not an intention.
Let me
They
clarify.
actually took a step. It was an action to register.
Isiama in Fomena
yes.
is not expressing an intention. He came to Parliament as an independent candidate.
Yes.
On the back of that, because of what his position meant to the MPP,
yes.
he became second deputy speaker.
Yes.
He has not just shown his intention. He is on the ballot contesting on the ticket of the MPP. What intention are you talking of?
I'm talking of intention to mean that the picking of nomination during the course of term time of Parliament does not stop you from remaining on the seat or the color on which you came into Parliament. That intention is expressed now to mean that it is only after elections. You see, the impression that is being given that if, for instance, I'm a member of NDC, and I said that next elections, I'm not going to stand on the ticket of NDC, that suggests that I have parted ways during the term. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. It's only in Ghana, with due respect, that we think so. The impression is being given that once you give an intention not to stand on that or not to belong to that party in the next elections, it means that you have severed your relationship. Is, in my view, dead wrong. Because I tell you that on an everyday basis, when you are working at Joy, if next year you want to work with Peace FM, come on, all you do is to give notice and give the notice. Some people consider that analogy as inappropriate, but let them reserve it to themselves. And I've told you that those are the two examples because they are everyday occurrences. I mean,
but you see, I've always had a problem with that bit about notice because there are different terms. And someone could say, I've seen an example of someone giving a notice and the employer said, you know what, I don't want to work with you anymore. So you might as well go ahead.
I do it all the time.
And so you do it all the time.
Because exactly. I'm a Ghanaian. You see, the Ghanaian attitude is that you can't give me a notice to say you don't be working with me in 3 months' time, and I'll permit.
So just clarify for me. I want to go to Inusah. I want to go to Inusah on a certain point and come back to you.
Yes.
What you're saying is that let's assume someone becomes a member of Parliament. Yes, in the 9th Parliament.
Yes.
But the Parliament to come, right? He contested on the ticket of the NDC, becomes a member of Parliament, and maybe let's assume there's such a narrow, or even evenness in Parliament one more time, okay? And this person came on the ticket of the NDC, and within a month or so says, you know what? I no longer want to be with the NDC, though this and that. I want to be with the MPP.
Yes.
After a month, okay? What happens to such a person? Will that person technically, per the law, per this same reasoning, what happens then to that person and that seat? How will it work in Parliament?
The law comes into being only upon certain steps being taken, not the declaration of intent. In the first place, that party will rid itself of that candidate by dismissing.
Because you talk of intent. In this instance, they have gone ahead to take certain actions. You still stick with intent. So I'm saying that in this instance, it will still be intent, right?
Yeah.
But the person would have actually taken the move. The speaker, there are processes that will be triggered. The speaker then has to. What do you think happens in such an instance?
No, for that intent to be actualized, one of two things will have to happen. The party against whom this person is playing that game can just go ahead and dismiss him. If it dismisses, it effectively terminates your relationship, and that will bring the matter to an end. For an honorable person, he himself can resign. And if he does the resignation, of course, it puts him out of Parliament. But if either side, nobody's invoking these clear provisions, and they want to permit him to say that it's their own game.
And that is why it's become interesting, because of the 4 people, the 1 NDC MP and the 3 others, none of them have actually taken the matter to court themselves. So we are dealing, we're dealing with this matter. No, I'm just saying that that's the interesting part. None of them decided to go to court, but it's become a tussle. Inusah Fuseini, I just want you to clarify 2 things for me. Did you say this for our viewers? I want you to clarify, and then we'll move on. 1, did you say that the courts have no jurisdiction over another arm of government, especially Parliament? Did you say that?
I said that.
You said that?
I said that.
Okay, the courts have no jurisdiction.
Their jurisdiction is a general jurisdiction. It's a general jurisdiction and invokes or comes into play in that interpretative capacity.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
In an interpretative capacity. It's a general jurisdiction. To suggest that the court can outreach the decisions of the Parliament is to circumscribe Parliament, subvert Parliament to the whims and caprices of the court, and it is not consistent with the rule of law, neither is it consistent with the separation of powers principle.
Thank you for that clarity. Did you also say it is wrong to say only the courts have power to interpret the Constitution?
It is wrong to say that. Only the court has the power to interpret. It's wrong to say that, because on a daily basis, you and I interpret the Constitution. But where there is no clarity or certainty in the interpretation placed on the provisions of the Constitution, we, the people of this country, have decided that it is only the Supreme Court that can give a final authoritative interpretation. That is why when you go to a lower court and there is no conflict on the provision, the lower court enforces the provisions of the Constitution. By enforcing, they have to understand what the provision means to be able to enforce. But they don't have, the lower courts do not have the jurisdiction to interpret the Constitution, but they must enforce it based on their understanding. And if they understand it in a certain way and enforce it, and you believe and feel that their understanding is contorted, is twisted, and it's not in consonance with the Constitution, you escalate your matter to the Supreme Court for interpretation. In fact, the courts have even developed a practice where when you go to court and mark an interpretative action as a suit, as a writ, the court will stay the writ and escalate your matter to the Supreme Court for interpretation, because it is only the Supreme Court that has the power under Article 130 to make a binding, final, authoritative interpretation. That's what
I'll come to what...
I'm coming.
All right.
Mr. Pencil talks about intention. You see, even in your studio, intention, the meaning of intention has been brought under the microscope. Don't you see it? Then he says, well, you must take certain steps, concrete. But he forgets Article 50 of the Constitution, 54, where a candidate files for an election and dies within 25 days to an election. The Constitution says what? That candidate or his party is given 10 days for a replacement. That should give you an indication that rights have accrued. The right of the candidate to partake in the election has accrued. And that's why the Constitution is bending backward to accommodate that person.
On the bit, Inusah, we have limited time. On the bit of predictability, I don't know whether you got the NDC MPP scenario I just painted. Someone who goes into the next parliament and maybe after a month or two decides, refusing to resign, but decides to join or caucus with the other side and says, in the next election, I'm not running on the ticket of this party. In terms of the predictability you spoke of, what does this do in the legal sense to some of these, problems that could arise?
The democracy becomes solid, concretized when it's stable. So when you are reading the provision, you must read it to understand that we are looking for stability in our democratic practice. And so when you allow flexibility of movement, and it is totally wrong for people to say that everywhere in Britain, when 4 members of parliament of the Conservative Party rose against the decision of the previous prime minister, they were expelled from the party and the by-election had to be held. Mind you, The member of parliament's position is a party position. It is incongruous for you to lose your membership of your party and continue to represent the party in parliament.
Okay.
It's incongruous.
Inusah, let me also let me come to Kweku Painter.
No, but let him answer the question. Why did the NDC not dismiss their members? He's talking about 4 MPs.
Why did the MPP not dismiss?
Both parties. Both parties. Because that's what has brought the constitutional issue. That's what has brought the constitutional issue. Because he acknowledges that.
I don't want us to get stuck on that point.
Thank you very much.
Kweku Ansah, this will be my final point. Former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kweku Ansah. He has criticized the Supreme Court, the apex court, and he says, I just want to go through a bit of what he says. He explains that the court's jurisdiction was not properly invoked when the Speaker made the ruling declaring the seats vacant. He says, the ruling is yet another example of our current Supreme Court living up to its accolade as an all-too predictable court. Their jurisdiction was not properly invoked, and today the Chief Justice has been heard saying that the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court was invoked when the Speaker made the ruling. Let me correct that erroneous impression. The jurisdiction of the Supreme Court can never be invoked after the Speaker has made a ruling in the chamber. The Supreme Court's long arms do not reach out to the Chamber of Parliament, and therefore whatever the Speaker says on the floor will never constitute a proper invocation of the Supreme Court. It goes on and on. Your take. That's what I'll leave you with.
One, I don't agree with him. He is seeking to suggest, for instance, that if in the Chamber of Parliament the Speaker exercises a right or authority to do something which is manifestly illegal, then by reason only of the fact that he did in the Chamber of Parliament, Ghanaians must sit and look over it. It can never be a reasonable interpretation of any portion of our Constitution. And I fundamentally disagree. And please, I'm saying in about a week or 2 time, the Supreme Court will have the opportunity to express its own view on this matter and to bind all of us. We may continue to debate this matter long after the Supreme Court has even ruled.
Which is itself not perfect, and its decision
obviously,
also very
I made the point that the idea that the Supreme Court or any judge for that matter has all the wisdom, it can never be the case.
Okay.
Yes, it can never be the case, but we are bound to follow their decisions unless set aside. And personally, I consider everything that ran up to yesterday as so much inconsistent. We have a Speaker who had received an order that he himself failed to agree with, but on the day he sat in Parliament and made a ruling, he acknowledged this order. Then in the next moment, he sent the order to the court, back to the court on the basis that it was not properly served on him. Then he went ahead in the Supreme Court to found an application on the very order that he claims to not have been properly served on him. This is inconsistency, and it exposes an agenda, which is that somehow Parliament must hang as things stand now. And that's my own view of the matter. And that's why I think that once the Supreme Court rule, will come back to everything that we have said, and then those who disagree with it will continue their narrative. Those who agree will continue to stand where we all are. But for now, let's not forget that we are all debating a matter which is yet to be manifested, possibly in about 2 weeks' time, when the Supreme Court finally sits and makes its ruling. All I'm doing or have done so far is to make, at best, a prediction as to how, in my view, this matter will end in the Supreme Court.
We do have to go. We don't have any more time for questions, but I want to leave us with this. I mean, the country is divided over this matter, some siding with Parliament and the Speaker, others with the Supreme Court and all that. This is something from Senyor Husi, and he says, Mr. Speaker, following the dismissal of your motion to have the Supreme Court vacate its orders in the Apenyo Makin versus the Speaker case, there are many expecting that you will ignore the apex court and proceed in an assertive fashion. Well, you may do that, perhaps with limited consequences for your person, as the rest of us would have faced if we disobey the Supreme Court. But that may be the high crime. I wanted to ask, what would be the high crime? But we don't have time enough for that. Those who join us for this conversation, Mr. Painstill is a lawyer.
I thought you were calling me to give a final remark.
Well, in about 30 seconds, do that for us, if you can.
So my final remarks are simple today. We are waiting the Supreme Court to give its interpretation to the jurisdiction.
we disagree with the state of execution because the state of execution is like a subsidiary legislation. It must be founded on the Parent Act. Where the writ said to, the writ invoking the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, but filed by Afeni Marken, spoke nothing about a decision of the court.
Mr. Inusah Fuseini, unfortunately, we have to go. That's all that time will allow. Thank you so much for joining us. We also have Mr. Kweku Pencil in the studio with us. He's a lawyer. And, of course, Benjamin Akakpo and I are here steering the conversations for you. We'll be back in a bit with more on the AM show. Guess who joins me in the studio this morning for a conversation? Madam Otiko Jaba, former Minister for Gender and Children Protection. And this morning, she's not here in the capacity of a former Gender Minister, but as the founder for the Henry Jaba Foundation, Henry Jaba Memorial Foundation. Madam Otiko Jaba, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, sweetie. And good morning to your wonderful viewers across Ghana and outside.
I'm sure they are really happy to see you in studio with us this morning. And we are going to talk about the Ability Fair 2024. This is the third edition.
Yes, please.
Third time you're doing this. And it's not just a fair, it's also a marketplace. But talk to us about it. What is the Ability Fair really about?
The Ability Fair is a special marketplace area for inclusivity in terms of inclusive entrepreneurship. There are persons with disability who can't even come out. And even when they do come out to sell, some people don't want to buy from them because of their disability.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes the places are not accessible for them to. Some of our markets, you know, it's very rough, even for a wheelchair and what have you. And so we are organizing this at the AMA, their events grounds, from the 2nd of November to the 10th of November. And that place is friendly, it's disability friendly, it's flat, and there are accesses to toilets and what have you. And so we are looking to break the barriers against socioeconomic disadvantages of persons with disability, the kaya, vulnerable women. There's opportunity for people in the hospitality industry, those who sell medical equipment and what have you, tour operators, for tourists, for visitors. It's a family do as well. You can come with your family, you can come with your children. But the main idea is to unlock the barriers and provide opportunities for persons who are vulnerable. You see, persons with disability are usually seen as the last group, the marginalized. And that when we eat and there's something left, then we remember them. But we forget that if you live long enough, you will become a person with disability.
Yeah.
If you get involved in an accident, you can become a person with disability. Wrong medication, you can be born with it. Nobody goes to the market to buy disability. Who wants it? But it happens, and we need to draw attention. So that's another reason why we're doing it, to raise attention to the issues of disability and show their capabilities and abilities, because they have so much potential. They sell from earrings, clothes, jewelry, food, beverages, beddings, equipment, you name it. Whatever an able person can do, a person with disability can do. So it's an exciting time. We have talk shops as well, interactive talk shops about health, about entrepreneurship, about banking, about communication, how persons with disability can get into leadership, can take care of themselves. We'll be having exercises. There'll be musical performance.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's fun galore.
Like a 360 fun galore.
I tell you, and there will be what we call tag of inclusion. Persons with disability will be pulling the rope, so we call it tag of inclusion. And they will have armchair dancing competition, wheelchair dancing competition, and other quizzes, food competition, eating competition, a whole load of things. You need to come there, please.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So those who will be exhibiting, are they coming for free? Are you still asking people to come on board?
Yes, 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 we are.
It's still open to the public?
It's open to the public. For the public, it's completely free.
Okay.
For persons with disability who want to exhibit, it's 20 cedis.
Okay.
And for business entities who are not persons with disability is 50 cedis a day because, you know, you have to pay for things and all of that. However, coming in as a visitor is completely free and children too. Nobody has to pay for anything. We like free things in Ghana.
Absolutely.
You know?
This is a wonderful initiative. So how many brands or organizations are coming together to support the Henry Jaba Memorial Foundation to do this?
Thank you so much. The Ghana Tourism Authority, our #1 partners, yes, they've been supporting us throughout, and I would like to use this opportunity to thank them, the CEO and all his staff, and the people at the Beyond the Return.
Okay.
Yeah, we work with them because, you know, this is another form of tourism through entrepreneurship, and then the GEA, Ghana Enterprises Agency, and then GMPC. They have a corporate social responsibility. They supported us in the Ability Fair 2021, and also Ghana Gas.
Okay.
Yes, they are also supporting us. And we have other CSOs that we have partnered with, like the Center for Employment for Persons with Disability, the Ghana Federation for Persons with Disability. All the disability groups are involved. And please tell your people to come, all members, not only from Accra, wherever you are, you can come in and join. And there are affordable places like the, I think, YWCA, where people can go and stay for affordable prices and what have you. So it's a good project for people to come and support the potential of persons with disability to sell. It's also a good opportunity for networking.
True.
You meet other people, you talk, you share numbers, and you don't know, maybe you didn't sell today, but tomorrow something else could come out of it.
And this is a 10-day activity from 1st to the 10th of November.
Yeah, it's,
so it's like a week-long event.
We've changed it because the venue, they are doing something on the 1st. So we are now starting on the 2nd. Yes, from the 2nd, to the 10th. Yeah.
At AMA?
Yes, at AMA from 9 a.m. to about 4 p.m. It's action-packed with different activities and a variety of products and services to see.
Okay.
Even how to repair wheelchairs and all sorts of assistive games are also there. Alternative ways of doing things.
Make your way to the Accra Metropolitan Assembly from the 2nd to the 10th of November. That is Monday to Saturday, right?
Saturday, this Saturday.
Starting from Saturday.
In 2 days' time.
Okay, so get ready. It is absolutely free, but if you want to exhibit and you're a person with disability, you pay just 20 Ghana cedis.
Yes, and you get a stall for that. You get a stall, you get chairs and tables for the duration.
Okay. And the numbers are on your screens. You can call 0533441967 to get more information on how you can also participate in the Ability Fair 2024. It's also the marketplace. So it's called the Ability Fair Marketplace.
Yes, it's a marketplace.
Super one. Thank you so much, Madam Otiku Afisa Jaba, former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful. So come one, come all.
All right. So on that note, let's get ready for other conversations on the AM show. We'll be right back with more.
Welcome back on the AM show. We have more conversations coming your way. But first, let me tell you about this year's CompuGhana Cashback, which has been named Prime Cashback Season. And it's packed with incredible deals and exciting surprises. Now, this Prime Cashback, CompuGhana, is bringing you exclusive discounts, prime savings, awesome surprises when you shop for any product from any of their branches nationwide. You can find products from your favorite brands like Samsung, LG, TCL, HP, Lenovo, Dell, Midea, Nasco, Tecno, Infinix, Itel, Huawei, and many more. Visit any of the CompuGhana branches nationwide and enjoy exclusive discounts on all products. CompuGhana has a wide range of IT-related products, including mobile phones, electronic products such as laptops, printers, desktops, mobile phones, tablets, televisions, fridges, home theaters, air conditioners, gas cookers, and more. What's more amazing is this year's Prime Cashback with CompuGhana has got great prizes with instant gifts. gift. Now. Cash prizes for your shopping experience. When you shop at CompuGhana this season, be on the lookout for the surprise team, answer a question correctly, and win instant cash and gifts. I think I have to go by. You deserve this opportunity too. Rush to CompuGhana now. Promo runs from now till December. Visit CompuGhana.com or call 0302 752 020 for more information. But I'll tell you about the mining safety, intermines safety competition, I should put it that way. And we have some of our guests joining us in the studio to expand on that, to expatiate on it. And guess what? We have Christopher Opoku-Nyako. He is Director, Analysis, Research and Finance. He joins the conversation. And of course, Laurentia Boahima Ewa, Manager, Human Resources and Operations, of course, with the Ghana Chamber of Mines. They both join the conversation. Ladies, gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, good morning. I'll
start from here. Mining safety. I'm sure everybody in the mining sector, safety, it's business for everybody. But why should we be so concerned, and why should we even have a week like this? I'll start with you.
Okay. I mean, safety cuts across every facet of our lives, not necessarily just the mining space. So for instance, in the morning, maybe you pick a bus or a trotro to wherever you are going. The driver has a responsibility to be sure that the car that he or she may be making available to passengers is in a good condition. That's safety. When, of course, you are a journalist in this particular studio, there are hazards here that can impact on the work that you do. So we need to make sure that we are putting that hazard out of the way. Again, that's safety. When pedestrians are crossing the road, there's a hazard that perhaps they may be knocked down by a car, they may trip while they are crossing the road. Again, there's a particular hazard that they are exposed to. So long as there is hazard in every facet of our lives, then there's a risk of an incident or an injury happening. And that is where safety comes to play. So it's an everyday thing. It's something that we all need to be aware and conscious of and actively integrate into what we do on a daily basis. So that is why it's something that is of concern to everybody, not just the mining industry.
Right, and I agree. Even here, I mean, I don't want a camera falling on my head, so you have to be very cautious. But what do you say on that point, Laurentia, before we get into other substantive matters?
And so, to add to what my colleague has said, and that is why for us in the mining industry, it's part of our culture, it's our everyday life. We believe that if you can't mine safely, you must as well stop. We prioritize the health and safety of our employees, our host communities, and all our stakeholders over the production and even the output of the mine. So it's become our culture, and for which reason we decided to do this competition every year to make sure we create awareness and improve consciousness about safety.
Okay. I'm sure you have your safety gear somewhere.
Oh, we do.
Your helmet, your boots, and everything.
Everything,
in
yes.
between.
Yes, we do.
I'll inspect them after this.
No problem.
Okay. But let's get into the Intermines Safety and First Aid competition. What is it effectively? What goes into it? How long have you run it? I'll start with you this time.
We've run it for over 40 years now.
You say?
Over 40 years.
Over
40 years.
40 years?
Yes, 40.
Yes.
Hey. 40 years, yes. It's old.
Is it continuous, like?
Continuous. Yes, continuous.
Every year?
Every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This shows how committed we are as a chamber towards health and safety of our employees and all our stakeholders. So
that means that will take us to maybe
1970s, actually.
1970s.
The 70s.
79?
Yeah.
It's a very old competition, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
don't know. Yeah,
it's organized by the Ghana Chamber of Mines, but in collaboration with the Minerals Commission, who are our regulators, and the St. John Ambulance, Ghana.
Okay.
And it has 3 different categories. We have the oral part, then we have the practical part, and we also have the essay. So students in host communities, yes, they write essay competitions every year about how they will improve safety in their schools.
I see.
And they compete, and also the host communities.
I see.
They also have competition among themselves. Then the mining companies as well. So it's very, very competitive and very, very interesting.
Chris, wait a degree more. It's a whole degree. But tell me, how relevant is this competition to the chamber, first of all,
and then to, like she mentioned, the institutions, the communities. How relevant is it to them?
So for us, it gives us an opportunity to showcase what we do internally at the mines.
Yeah.
Like you rightly pointed out, mining, safety, they go hand in hand. Yeah. And there's a slogan across all mines: if we can't mine safely, then we're not going to mine at all.
Right.
So we believe that over the years, we've inculcated safety into everything that we do. And that is something that we can showcase to the outside world. And that is one of the reasons why we are here. Not just to let you know what we do, but also to help you understand that you can also learn safety and inculcate it into whatever you are doing in your everyday life. So it's an opportunity for us to be able to give back to the country in terms of safety practices, as far as the best is concerned. And then in our host communities that we are also working with and we are working in, it also gives an opportunity for us to build their capacities. Like Laurentia rightly pointed out, the competition also has the host communities forming their own team and then coming to participate in it. Let me give you a live example. An incident happened in one of our communities. It was a football game, and someone got injured in the course of the game. And we had one of the footballers who had participated in the competition as a first aider. So that person was killed in giving first aid. And the first aid that he administered on the pitch was the difference between the person becoming a cripple and then quote unquote, and then being able to walk again. Yeah. So that is skill that's being imparted to the community members, and that is what they also benefit from. And for our regulators and for all other stakeholders, it also, for instance, Minerals Commission, what we are doing here at the large-scale mining sector, they are also able to pass on these practices to our brothers in the small-scale mining sector with the hope that they can also improve upon the outcomes of their mining. So all in all, it's a matter of us sharing knowledge, at the same time being also able to give back to our communities that we work in, that whatever skill that they are acquiring can transform into life-saving skills also for them.
So it's a win-win situation.
Exactly.
Laurentia, after having done this, and for quite a while now, what level of importance would you say the enterprises, the mining companies, and also their host communities attach to the safety of the employees, workers who operate in these mines?
I cannot put words how important safety is to the mines. It's everything. It's at the heart of the operations. It's at the beginning, at the end, throughout the operations, right? We spend so much resources and time and hours to make sure that employees go to work and come back home safely. And you know that mining has been happening in our country for over 100 years. And for us, one fatality is one too many fatalities. So we make sure that workers go to work and they come back home safely. And also we extend the knowledge to their families. Because if you go to most mining companies nowadays, majority of the staff are from the host communities. And that's why it's important that we have the competition extended to the host communities. So it's not just the employee who is taken care of, but their families too, because they come from the community. So we want to make sure that everybody in the industry is taken care of. And it's so important. And we put in a lot of resources, time. In the typical mining setting, we will not start work without what we call toolbox meeting. And that is a safety brief where you have to do a pre-assessment of your work area, identify the risk, report them even before you start work. So it's very, very important to us what we do. Yeah.
All right. So just give us some details of what we can expect this year in terms of the incident. I'll let you handle that. Okay. And then I'll come to you briefly on some thoughts generally about workplace accidents and how they can be dealt with. But let's start with you.
So we had a competition in phases. There's what we call like a qualifier, sort of like just to football parlance, right? So there's a zonal phase where mining companies will be grouped and then they will compete, and then whoever emerges the first from the zone will then qualify for quote-unquote like the World Cup of our competition. So we've completed the zonal.
This is mining NSMQ.
Okay. If you put it that way, that's fine. Yeah. So so we have companies that have qualified. So we had Perseus, mining company qualifying. We also had Golden Star Wasa also qualifying as well. And of course, there's the host company, which is Chirano Gold Mines, by virtue of it hosting the competition. Naturally, it sort of qualifies. And there's also Anglo Ashanti, Edua Prim also qualifying. So these are like the 4 companies that are competing at the national level. So we've had, the national also has 2 phases. There's a practical component where scenarios will be given to you and then you will simulate it. For instance, if there is an employee involved in some particular kind of injury, we are asked to simulate a response to that particular kind of injury. And they've gone through that phase. So now what is just left is the finals of the finals, which is happening on Sunday at 11:30 at the studios of GTV. It will be shown live on their What Do You Know quiz competition. So from 11:30 a.m., the competition will be live on air, and then we'll get to know who will come on top.
The ultimate winner.
Exactly, for the oral competition.
All right. Final words, and you can share with us some of your thoughts on accidents at the workplace and other bits as well.
Okay. In as much as possible, as employees, we should try and avoid accidents. And to help do that, I think, like I said, when you go into the workplace in the morning, do a little assessment around yourself, around your environment. We would leave drawers open. You can trip and fall. Electric cables around, you can trip and fall. So just remove some of these hurdles or bottlenecks. And if there is any hazard if identified, immediately report and get it sorted out. With some of these small tips, we will be able to eliminate and reduce accidents in our everyday life.
All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Laurentia. You just heard from Christopher Pokunyako, Director, Analysis, Research and Finance, and Laurentia Boahima, Manager, Human Resources and Operations. Of course, both of them with the Ghana Chamber of Mines. Before we knock off to our next conversation, Medicas Hospital, a modern healthcare facility built with your family in mind, offers you spacious wards built with your family in mind, a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind, and they have also assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine led by Dr. Yawo Safo, the drive-time doctor, to serve you. If you want more, head to any of their branches. They are offering you general medical services as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, and eye care. Additionally, they are offering a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays and scans, a 24-hour pharmacy ensuring you will always receive efficacious, safe and affordable medicine. They also bring into you the most powerful medicine of all, simple human kindness and empathy. And they pride themselves on attaining the highest attainable standards. They're accepting all forms of payment as well, including private health insurance companies. So all you have to do, make your way to Medicas Hospital. They are located at number 10 Kinso Street, near Ashaleboche School Junction. You can reach them on 0501 477 340. 0501 477 340. On social media at MedicasGH. That is MEDICASGH. Medicas Hospital, a place of healing. Hopefully, we've been a place of joy for you this morning. But stay with us. That's still one last conversation we have coming your way. We'll be right back.
Well, you're still watching the AM show on Joy News, and this is the last conversation we're bringing you this morning. I have two beautiful women and one gentleman in the studio with me to talk about their homecoming and business fair for Ukwapiman School. Rachel Boki Na is business fair committee member. Ya Bomo Benny is also a business fair committee member, and we have Kwabena Amponsa Akuto, homecoming planning committee member. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So who do I start with? Rachel, tell me about this homecoming and business fair you have coming on.
Yes, so Kwabena will mainly speak on the homecoming, but this time around, you know there's a saying that home is where the heart is. We did a maiden business fair in Accra sometime last year, and this time around, because there is a homecoming opportunity, we are championing a mega business fair back on campus, back to our roots, where we started, where it all began. And the interesting thing about this year's program is that it is open to the general public, not just Adishi who are into business and are into wares and buying and selling. It's open to the whole country, nationwide, and you pay an amount of 500 cedis to exhibit and for students, parents, all students to come and buy your wares.
Okay.
We have a counselor on board who is going to attend to mental health issues, a whole lot. Everything that you need in town, we are taking it back home.
At this business fair.
Yes.
And then it's part of the homecoming activities we have. So let me come to Kwabena to tell us about the homecoming itself. What do you have lined up for your old students? Is it OPSA? Or
Yes.
OPSA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you have lined up for OPSA?
Okay, so what we have lined up is that going home, you cannot go home on an empty stomach. You cannot go home empty-handed. So first, for ourselves as OPSA, old past students, we have activities lined up from Friday, the 8th of November to the 10th of November. We are going home to first, after our welcome home, we're going to have dinner with the students. So we are going back as students to dine with the students on Friday.
Okay.
Then on Saturday, we are going to have our Kenke party, Kenke and Wache party on campus.
Is participation free?
Participation is free.
Okay.
It's open to all OPSA members. As long as you went to Kwapman, as long as you find yourself on campus on that day, on the 9th, you are more than invited to join us to have our Kinky and Wache party. And as I said, we are not going empty-handed.
Okay.
So as a year group that is championing this year's homecoming, we have renovated some classrooms, 6 classrooms. And these are some of the classrooms we used whilst in school. So we've renovated them and we're going to hand it over to the school.
Okay.
And this is 94-year group. Okay. We have the 84-year group who are celebrating their 40th anniversary since they left school. And they are also doing boreholes. They've done boreholes which will be handed over to the school on that same day. Then we have the 74-year group. They are also going to hand over some goods to the school. So we are not going empty-handed.
So most of the past students or the old student associations for the various year batches have unique presentations and activities going on during this homecoming activity.
And then the icing on the cake is what the 94s call Intarimo and the 74s called Record Night. Records night.
That?
That is when we are going to actually wind down and boogie.
Boogie down.
Yes. Throughout the night.
So mama calls.
Yes.
At this point, I don't think any mama is calling.
Of course.
Yeah, let me come to Ya now. Yeah, what do you have to add to all of this? The mega addition, right? And then the business fair, the homecoming, the icing on the cake, the boogie down.
With the business fair for the 2 days, we are just taking a token of 500 cedis.
Okay.
So, and it's open to the general public. So if you want to register, there's a number here I'll give out.
Please,
so that they go. So it's 0244 44 4945. If you want to register, call this number and you'll be registered. And then
please mention the number again.
The number is 0244 44 4945.
Okay. That's a lot of fours. Let's read it one last time.
0244 44 4945.
Okay.
So if you want to register, just call this number. And
they can call the same number for further information.
For any further
anything that pertains to the homecoming. Thank you so much. And that there was Ya Bomo Benny, part of the Business Fair Committee, as well as Rachel Buekina, also part of the Business Fair Committee. I like how you said I mentioned your name right now. And then Kwabena Mponsa Akuto is part of the Homecoming Planning Committee. I wish you the very best. This is all happening from the 8th of November to the 9th
to the 10th.
So it's a 3-day long activity. All right. So that's what we have for the 2024 OPSA Homecoming and Business Fair. Please do well to get in touch with them if you have further inquiries that you want to make. Okay, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having
Thank you.
And right before we wrap up for the AM show, Ghana, get ready. You know, our sponsors and brands trust us with important information to deliver to you. And you want to remember that Syntex Ghana, Syntex, is doing a big giveaway the biggest giveaway from Syntex Tank, and they're visiting 15 communities, giving them free water. And this is just to say thank you, Ghana, for making them the #1. Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Do you know that they're also the first to introduce inner white layer tanks? Yes, that's Syntex Tank. Not be any tank be tanko, the correct tank be Syntex Tank. You want to reach out to Syntex Tank, you can reach them on all their social media platforms at Syntex Ghana. And if you want to be part of the free water giveaway, simply nominate your community. And to nominate them, just log on to their social media handles and nominate your community. The more you nominate, the better chances you have of Syntex visiting your community to give you that free water to say thank you. Remember, it is Syntex, S-I-N-T-E-X Ghana. So go there across all social media platforms and nominate for more. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I did this with Benjamin Akakpo. We're back on your screens tomorrow for the Friday edition of the AM show. You don't want to miss it. But please stay for Joy News Desk coming up next with Faustina Safo. Mwah.